All right, what's up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints? Welcome to the after show, pre-show debate that's going to happen tomorrow now. Welcome back to the Rage. Allie's here. I guess this is an impromptu. We're going to do an open room, but we already have 2 spots filled. Nathan and Susan from Divine Disbelief are going to join us, so that leaves us 2 spots open. We will
Looks like Mr. Parker has already requested one of those spots.
Yeah,
so if
yeah.
Mr. Parker's still in the Discord, I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, Mr. Parker. So 1 spot. We would like to get a Christian in. So if there's a Christian and you would like to come in, speak now or forever hold your peace. What's up, Alec?
Hey guys. Oh my god, I'm doing terrible with the copying and pasting stuff because I'm trying to focus on more than one thing at once. So I actually did a help with you for the debate prep a little bit. So I'm super disappointed that it didn't happen because I was pretty damn confident in how you were going to do.
Yeah, I had a pretty good game plan going into it. I was really stoked to see that the chat was a little even supporters were like, I don't know about knocking physics. I definitely want to have a discussion about fine tuning, so feel free to go ahead and bring Nathaniel and Susan in, and then Mr. Parker, feel free to come in, and then we have 1 spot open. I do want to have a conversation about fine tuning, but I don't want to really get into my arguments too much, so this is going to be a delicate balance. Any of the guests, feel free to talk freely about this conversation or anything else that you would like to talk about. We have at least 2 hours, so let's do this. What's up, Alec? We were ready. I was ready, but I'm actually glad that I have another day now. For one, I can really study my notes. I'll actually show you. Like, this is my prep work. I prepped. This is all the shit I had. I had a lot of shit. So I was ready. But this will give me a day to even be more ready for a topic that I usually don't delve into.
Or to smoke the day away and weed and obsessively clean, which is what you did most of today.
Well, I haven't cleaned it all. I've been straight up obsessively researching all day. So yeah. Tomorrow I'll probably want to clean.
Okay, so they're trying to get their setup away from their roommates who are being noisy. So they'll said that they'll come in as 1 unit. So we actually have 2 open spots for Christians. If we can get a Christian on here. Guys, this is your time to go find your favorite troll or nifty. As long as you don't slur, you can come on the show and get into a fight with any of us. And if y'all even want, I'll tie my hand behind my back and play moderator. Because everybody here who's ever watched a debate with Knock knows I'm fucking fair. I will shut his face and mute him so that you can talk.
Travis, if you want to come in, you're welcome to come in. I'm really going to try not to get into any of the arguments that I'll get into with you tomorrow. But feel free to come in and talk to the rest of the guests. So, and then I did see Immutable Destiny would like to come in, and Immutable hasn't been in a while. So yeah, I would definitely have Immutable in as well.
All right, so you're going to need to get one to Immutable. I don't know if Immutable's on my Discord or not. If he is, then I can get it to him on Discord. But otherwise, you said Travis also, the person from the debate. Right. You might need to get it to them too.
I don't have anything for Travis. He didn't volunteer. He did say he might show up in the chat, so he might just be watching. But I did.
Oh, okay.
I was just sending an invitation out. Let me see. I have Immutable in my Gmail, so I'm gonna look there. What's up, Mr. Parker?
No, you need to unmute yourself, dude.
Sorry, I was busy. What do you guys say?
So what's up, man?
Not much.
I'm looking for Immutable.
It's been a hot sec. We haven't seen you around since the one of the big mental health streams.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been looking at the videos. I don't really say much in chat.
Well, we're kind of just shooting the shit this stream. Like, it's basically a hangout stream.
All right.
Oh, sweet. It looks like I do actually have him on Discord. He just messaged me, so I just got him the link.
So much easier. All right, cool.
Immutable Destiny. Yeah, anybody, if y'all have me on Discord, or if you've joined our Discord, that opens your DMs up to me, so I can actually send you links. Like, join our Discord if you have not. There are also glorious dumpster fires to be had in that particular chat and lots of discussions that go on, so it's worthwhile going there. Like, we're not the most active in the entire world, but we're not dead either. There's always discussions.
I'm always obsessively working on videos, so it's hard to really get me interacting so much out of just like what's up, chit
I can
chat.
grab. Well, I mean, we've actually had some great discussions recently, namely on Mr. Knockoff, because, well, he can go fuck himself.
Yeah. So I mean, we can talk a little bit about shit fine tuning. I'm not gonna probably talk too much about. I don't want to give away how much I know. Travis is checking it out, so yeah, I doubt he's gonna want to come on and talk to me tonight, especially since we'll be talking tomorrow. If there is a Christian out there, we do have one spot left. If a Christian doesn't claim it soon, then we'll open that spot up to one more person that wants to come in. But I was very, Allie knows, I feel like I'm very prepared for the arguments I'm going to present. And I have full confidence that I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to start there.
That's good.
Well, yeah, we did a little bit of mock roleplay stuff. I did some reviews of debates on this in the past, and also went and contacted a buddy of mine who's pretty deep into theoretical physics, the one who helped me work on my novel that I'm currently finishing up. I'm hoping to get it out by May. The second in the series is the one that went free last week. And he actually gave us a few extra points that we could kind of lay out as to how like certain things came into being and how our understanding of them came into being. So I thought that was super helpful, and I'm really grateful that he was available just kind of on demand for that. This guy's worked for SpaceX and NASA, so he's got good shit.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I'm definitely don't work for NASA or SpaceX. If anybody didn't know that.
Which reminds us, reminds me, we are going to be having Mama Atheist on here on Wednesday, and that is not going to be a stream you guys are going to want to miss. We're going to talk about climate science, because she is a climate scientist, but she also has an undergrad degree in astrophysics.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of her show with MathPick today. As I just taking a break for a brief moment as I was cooking dinner.
The two of them are great.
Yeah, they're. It was a pretty good show. I'm looking forward to that show. And you know, I am really trying to delve deep into the arguments. I announced it with the rebrand. This is something that I've been building up for a while. I've been emphasizing on my research on philosophy. But delving into science as well. So, yeah, I think I'm fully prepared for Travis. I'm not sure that Travis is fully prepared for me, and I'm speaking in just like direct regards of my personality. I know Brian Stevens joked that I don't rage as much anymore as I used to, but that's by design as well, because I think that rage is a useful tool if it's used usefully. So yeah, I think that Travis might not be ready for the type of atheism that I am, which just is very blunt. I'm very open to not knowing something and saying that. So yeah, we'll see how the conversation goes tomorrow. I suspect that it'll be interesting, to say the least. And Allie knows my game plan, so I think she'll back me up on that.
Banana Nana said, "Send this Christian the link. I don't believe in climate change."
Oh hell yeah! So figure out.
Banana Nana, can you post an email or a Discord tag so that one of us can get it, or even a Twitter handle, so we can get you a DM with the link? I'm not going to put it in the. I'm not going to put it in the chat because we've had.
Rage now. Yeah, they want me to rage now. Or if just chill until Divine gets in, and then we'll just put it in the chat because that'll only leave one.
All right, Travis is out.
All right. I don't trust you though. I don't have empirical evidence that you're a dishonest Christian, but I think that you want me to think you're gone, so you don't hear my arguments, and maybe I'll say them anyway.
Well, I mean, regardless, apparently somebody wants to come on and debate climate change.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, we can apply that to some fine tuning as well.
But yeah, banana, there's way too many N's. If you want to send us either a Discord tag or an email, flatearthfrank@gmail.com. Knock.
Well, here we go. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be great, man. It's been a while.
I'm not that.
Can you check in the description, see if Atheist Husker and Susan are in yet?
They're not. I'm gonna leave the sending of the email to you because you will come. I'm concentrating on too much different shit right now.
All right, freaking.
All right, so let me get my shit in order here. Thank
You
you
go get into your
everybody for
account.
joining, for showing up for like the first official open room of the rebrand. I haven't changed the name yet. That will happen. I'm gonna let people get used to it. We're gonna say the rage a lot, blah 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 blah. I want to have a couple. I want to have at least one more live Apostate Alliance episode, which hopefully will be happening very soon. I have a edited video to put out tomorrow, but this. So when it comes to the argument of fine tuning, I will put it out that Travis is going to have to really explain that it's God. I'll put that out there. You're gonna have to give me empirical evidence that God did it, but we'll get to that tomorrow.
So I have a question about what the debate's about exactly.
All right, go for it. I can
So
probably
is it
point you into one that will give you a really good idea. It was Travis versus T Jump. He pretty much wants to have the same debate, but he just changed it from does science point towards atheism or theism to does physics point to atheism or theism? But the official name was does physics point to God, to a God?
Okay, because that was my question. I was thinking, or is it like a specific God? Is he going to argue in a specific God or just a general?
I'm assuming the Christian God because that's what he argued last time.
Well, yeah, but to an extent, because I'm not going to give away an argument, but he's literally going to be arguing for a very weakened definition of a Christian God, I think, because I don't think that the God he's going to be arguing for when it comes to fine tuning the universe can actually be the definition of a Christian God, which would be omnibenevolent, omnipotent, omniscient, all of that.
All that fun
Yeah,
stuff.
you've already made videos on that, so that's no secret.
Yeah. I mean, my stance on that is pretty clear. Being the Christian that I am, as Misha would say.
All right, I got that email sent off for you now that you've made me do it.
See, that was so much faster. It would have taken me like an hour. And Allie, I have both of my drinks. You know how I do it? I have, my one tall drink and my one short drink, and that'll get me through a long stream. I had both of them bitches set up for this debate. And they're already probably watered down because I was waiting.
I mean, everybody knows that it's, like 6 o'clock plus or minus James time.
Yeah, well, at first it was Travis we couldn't hear him, and then we couldn't convey to him that we couldn't hear him, and he couldn't hear us. So I turned my camera on, and I think he finally got the point. He went out and he came back in, and then James had connection problems. So yeah, that's why it was postponed. He's going to try to get Converse Contender or Praise to host it until he can find a stronger internet connection because he's locked out of his school, the strong internet connection that he uses.
Yeah, this is where I sit here with my gigabit connection and just kind of sip at my tea and look off into space.
I did see that there was some back and forth about the definition of God in the chat. I wasn't able to get into it too much.
Well, there was one person who claimed that God was the ultimate reality, and somebody was like, so would that apply to polytheistic gods?
Yeah, that was me. I was questioning that definition a lot.
Yeah, there were a few people that were questioning that definition.
Because I was like, where do you define this? And he's like, Webster Dictionary. I'm like, you didn't even put down the entire definition. You just put down the first 4 words. And I'm like, it's not a good definition. It's very...
Has our flurfer come into the...
No, and I still don't see divine disbelief either.
They said that they were getting Nathaniel's stuff set up because of the roommates. They said a couple of minutes and they'll be in.
Yeah, I mean,
they'll probably DM me when they get in if you don't notice them right away.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't really think it's for the direction that my arguments are going to go personally. The definition of God isn't too vitally important. I think I will end up touching on it because I think that ultimately by arguing the position of fine tuning, he's really limiting the potential of God. And I think that the Christian God is, if anything, an extremity of the potential of God.
So, like, looking at the chat, apparently we're being asked what a James time unit is. Let us have a discussion.
A James time unit. All right,
Yes,
P
a
Mars,
James-
I recognize
Hey,
that
P
name.
Mars. That's been a while.
Hey. Yep. I forgot to change. How's it going?
What's up? Everybody knows who you are now.
Sure. My cover's blown.
And Nathaniel and Susan just showed up as well. So what's up, y'all?
I don't remember P-Mars. Was P-Mars a, like, are you a fan or are you one of the Christians that likes to chill with us?
I'm not. I'm a theist. I was banana in the chat.
I noticed.
I guess I'm not. Yeah, I guess you sent me the link. I'm not. I guess I'm technically not a Christian. I'm a pantheist. Is that the right word? I think.
Well, the thing
I'm
is
trying to
we
remember
need
if
an,
I've talked to you before. I
need
think I
to have
definitely recognized comments.
I've gotten banned in your chat.
Yeah. I think I recognize comment. I recognize.
I think I recognize the name from the ban list.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Eventually
I was like, I
unban
don't
him
remember. Huh?
Eventually, I'll unban him again. Like the only person that I haven't unbanned in quite a while is like Joe.
Yeah, it's because he earned that.
I got a bunch of socks.
Yeah, people are warning me. I'd be careful if I were you. All right. So yeah, bring it, P Mars.
Are they
No dick
worried
pics.
about me?
No dick pics.
I have a bad reputation from the flat Earth community, but it's not justified. I'm blamed for like porn bombing, but I've never porn bombed a hangout in my life.
Yeah, no porn bombing.
So, sup Nathaniel, sup Susan.
Hi.
What's up?
It looks like you guys got away from the person who was trying to do a Hatchet impression.
Yeah, they were basically trying to chop carrots with like the most obnoxious knife in the world. It was great.
I was like, I was asking you if like they went and saw Saw or something and just tried to do an impression of a butcher. I don't know.
Ka-thunk.
God.
That's what it sounded like. That's legit what it sounded like. Like Nathaniel and Susan and I had a sort of mini meltdown-ish on Twitter when an asshat was trying to tell me that COVID was not the thing that is currently making my husband incredibly sick. And that it's not as bad as the media says it is. And like between that and my husband finally getting his telehealth services and getting set up for testing and all of that shit and the results that came back and just like his fever went up to 104 today. Between all of that, I was fragged, and so they were like, is there anything we can do to help? And I'm like, well, Knox's about to go do a debate. Let's all just hang out in a voice chat and talk about that so I don't have to think about how much my life sucks anymore.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you guys are here, Nathaniel and Susan and Immutable and Mr. Parker. P. Mars wants to talk to us about climate change.
Why?
I don't know.
Apparently he doesn't believe in it.
I don't believe in climate
dear.
change.
I don't care if you believe in it or not. It's fucking real.
I'm just gonna
How do you know?
eat some chicken nuggets.
How many scientific papers have you written on it, and what exactly is your? Because I've actually worked in a scientific lab. Have you?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be
I'm
good.
not.
You have not. Okay, well then, what do you think makes you necessarily an expert on this versus 98, 99% of the rest of the climatologists? I would say rest of the climatologists, but you're not one of them. So all.
I
of
don't think I'm an expert.
Okay, well then, why do you doubt it then? Why do you think the experts are wrong if you're not one?
Why do I think the experts are wrong? That's a complicated question.
Well, no, you're not an expert, so why do you think the experts are wrong? It's a really easy question.
Okay, well, my worldview is that we live in a scientific dictatorship.
The fuck does that mean?
Yeah, can you define that for us?
How do I define that?
Okay, so quick thing, guys. I want to establish one thing before we get too deep into this. Am I playing moderator or am I allowed to participate? Because if I'm playing moderator, then that's cool. I'll just keep everybody in line. If I'm allowed to participate, this is going to be a free-for-all with no moderator.
Well, participate until we need a moderator. How about that?
Is that cool with everybody, or is everybody cool with that condition?
Yeah.
If we need a moderator, I'll step into the moderator role. PMARS, you've seen enough shit to know that I'll be fucking fair if I'm not allowed to participate.
I don't care if you're unfair.
Well, I am a fair moderator. That is one thing that that is the reason that Knock brought me onto the channel. I have shut him down when he has shouted at people.
I don't shout.
I do a lot. I'm trying to stop.
No way, not the raging atheist.
I'm trying to only do it if necessary. I can't promise anything, P. Mars, but let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear why the experts are wrong and your worldview is somehow magically right.
If I may, before you start.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So I actually study paleoanthropology, so the history of hominids, and that has a lot to do with climate change, by the way, anthropogenic and otherwise. So my field of study is not climatology, but it's been intricately intertwined with climatology over the course of the past, especially the past 70,000 years since Mount Tova. So
I thought you were going to say the past 70,000 years that I've been studying it, and I was just still like, you are not that old.
We measure 70,000 years in young Earth creationist years, so it's 8. I don't know how that math works, but so
it doesn't, but it does.
That way you know that, P. Mars. Now, if you would like, and Susan can tell you at the point that you would like to challenge a certain piece of mathematical inquiry, Susan can tell you, I will get out my whiteboard and we will try to figure it out with linear graphs if you want and linear equations.
Yeah, can confirm.
And, as somebody who has actually also worked in a lab on a climate-related project, I will tell you that geological departments in a lot of colleges do tend to handle a lot of this sort of ecological research. The particular paper that I was dealing with isn't necessarily climate change, but it's very similar. We were studying the effect of various pollutants on the Pacific Northwest watershed, specifically the Puget Sound watershed. So we collected, or rather we had collection sites all along the Puget Sound region. There was over 100 of them. You can actually look this paper up online, and my maiden name may actually still be on it. As one of the people that helped out with it. But basically, we collected these substrate samples from the earth, which in layman's terms means mud, basically. And we would go through them and clean out the vast majority of the mud and try to isolate any diatoms that we could find. And various subspecies and species of diatoms would be found in different concentrations depending on how the cleanup was going for certain kinds of chemicals and waste that would be dumped in various areas of the watershed. But the point is that doesn't sound like a geological project. Now, does it? Geology departments handle a lot of that kind of stuff. It doesn't seem intuitive to somebody who's doesn't have a background in STEM, but I started with a major in paleontology before I transitioned to nutrition, so I got to do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm totally interested in what is it that you don't believe? So you don't believe in climate change, like natural climate change, or you don't believe that in man-made climate change?
I don't believe in man-made climate change.
All right, that's a little more defining. That clarifies a little bit. Why don't you believe in man-made climate change? Why is it so preposterous to you?
So, yeah, I'm not scientific, and I can't really challenge the science. But
well, I'm out.
Basically, I think that when there's a political agenda behind science that we cannot I wouldn't throw all of science out. I understand there's some legitimate things about science, but the thing is, science that is got a political agenda backing it, I don't think can be trusted.
Okay, do you you're using the word science super broadly here. Do you think that science is a thing, or can you define science here? Because I don't know if we're using the same definition.
And define politically backing, because I would maintain that it's one side politicizing it to try to dismiss the science because the science is independent of politics.
Do you really believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, P. Mars, can you please define science for me? Because again, I don't know if we're using the same definition here.
The study of the natural world, the knowledge that we have.
A little bit more than that.
I would say it's a little more than that. I agree with Immutable. I could give a definition, or Nathaniel can give a definition. Either one of us, I think, technically could, but you are currently working within the field, whereas I retired to go be a fiction author, so it's up to you.
Yep, I'm good. Okay. Make sure that my microphone is on. I'm not working in the field right now either. Now, mind you, I've done some stuff recently, but I'm not in the field either right now. In fact, I've actually taken a bit of a bit of a sabbatical from it, doing a lot of New Testament scholarship stuff.
A scientific hiatus, as it were.
Call it that.
Yeah.
So
that's-
do you want to try to kind of come to do you want to come to an understanding about a definition? Because to my understanding, usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but science more has to do with it's a methodology rather than a unit. You do not do a science. You use science to like determine things, or at the very least, generally the most probable explanation for X, Y, or Z thing when we're subject to repeated testing.
And it's testable, verifiable, and falsifiable, right?
Testable, repeatable, falsifiable, and makes predictions.
So
science has nothing to do with objective truth. It has more to do with the methodology.
Not all science is testable, though.
Name one that's not.
Astronomy?
Astronomy is fucking testable.
Yeah,
No,
testable.
there's sciences that are not testable. Like, what about psychology?
Psychology is testable. Have you not read a psychological study?
Have you not seen like Pavlov's dogs? Have you not read any of
I don't know if
I've seen the
like,
Daniel
series regarding psychology?
I don't think those are the type of sciences
They're
that
called
we're
soft
talking about.
science, soft sciences.
Yes, they're called soft sciences for a very specific reason. Particularly psychology is called a soft science among one of its many reasons, is the irreducibility problem of psychology, where psychology has trouble both with its controls in developing experimental standards and within being able to produce multiple experiments that can conclusively show one result.
Okay, I will be right back, guys. Don't let it turn into a shit show while I'm AFK for a sec.
All right.
No
Let's say
guarantees.
I know what you're talking about, immutable. I think that's not the type of science that we're talking about here.
No, I know. I mean, I'm just curious how he thinks astronomy isn't a custom science.
Yeah, like that's interesting to me,
Can
and
you
I'm not an astronomer.
Can you use the scientific method in astronomy?
Yeah, that's how we
Yes,
found out
you
how
can.
far stars are.
Yes, you can make predictions based upon mathematical models, which can tell you, for instance, what a star's stellar composition should be in a particular lifespan, what the flux should be, for instance, various different things.
Isn't that how they told like the comets and shit when they'd repeat and stuff?
Yeah, mathematical principles based upon gravitation. Yeah.
The comets and
Oh, yeah.
shit.
Yeah, I'm looking into some stuff right now. I mean, definitely astronomers apply the scientific method. I think there's not a doubt. Like, and Hubble was able to see that the universe was expanding. In the 90s, we were able to see that the universe that expansion wasn't slowing, it was but growing faster. So yeah, definitely astronomers are using the scientific method.
So then my question would be, if it's political, first off, which political party, and then what's the name of that political party like in Pakistan? Because climatologists in Pakistan have come to the same independent conclusions, and I don't know if they're involved with the political stuff going on in the United States right now. The cabal or whatever.
It's a vast global conspiracy.
The Conservative Party in the UK is, they don't deny man-made climate change.
Yeah, that's because, well, first of all, there's no such thing as like Democrat, Republic. Like they're the same thing.
No, I'm the opposite of a Republican.
Yeah, definitely way opposite ideologies here. Maybe if you're talking to some really, really moderate people, there's a blend, but way different ideologies. I wouldn't even call really like a libertarian. They're not a conservative Republican.
Okay.
I should say I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please, I'm going to do my best not to.
Well, there's a professor of history at Georgetown. His name's Carroll Quigley. He's actually Bill Clinton's favorite professor. And he says that the argument that the two parties should represent opposed ideals and policies, one perhaps of the right and the other of the left, is a foolish idea acceptable only to doctrinaire and academic thinkers. Instead, two parties should be almost identical so that the American people can throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. Then it should be possible to replace it every 4 years, if necessary, by the other party, which will be none of these things, but will still pursue with new vigor approximately the same basic policy.
Okay.
Okay, so before we go into like going down a rabbit hole of trying to define specific political things, I'm going to help. Back to the climate change, man-made climate change doesn't exist thing. Because I feel like that was going to go down a very, very deep and intricate like rabbit hole. That was going to.
And I come back to talk of rabbit holes. Where are we at?
Well, no, I should say I agree with that person, but that's not the current. I'm not small government, so I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. So I agree with that person's ideology and what he would hope for things to be, as they should be. Just listening to the quote by itself was something, I imagine that he would be a fan of the agrarian Jefferson, right? Like the Jeffersonian type of democracy. But that's not what we have right now. And I'm certainly not aligned with anything that's on the right. Not a goddamn thing. But yes, anthropogenic climate change. It's political.
So like Eisenhower, right? When he was giving his farewell address, he warned us about the military-industrial complex, among one thing, and he also warned us about the domination of science-based public policy by what he called a scientific technological elite. And I think basically what he was warned us about has come to pass with this
anthropogenic.
Okay, so question: if you think it's partisan, question: do you think that?
No, I just said that it was not partisan.
How do you think it's not partisan?
Because I said that the two parties, like, there's no such thing as a left and a right party. There's one party, and there's no such thing as different countries. We're in a global government. It's just not official yet.
You're a hardcore conspiracy theorist. Like, I don't understand what you mean by there's a
hardcore conspiracy.
Okay, if there's a global government, then why the hell is Trump excluding refugees from other countries from coming here?
Because we're in a lockdown.
No, that happened long before COVID-19.
That was a long time ago. That was a campaign promise.
There's refugees here.
This is an odd.
This is really weird.
So how long has this world conspiracy been going on? Oh, this world government. Has it been going on for centuries or decades?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to
when
everything.
Did it start?
Why do you think I know the answer to every question?
All right,
because when you make claims, you have to have some kind of evidence in order to back up your claims. Otherwise, the people that are around you that you are trying to convince are not going to be inclined to believe you.
Yeah. Like, all right, so
I have evidence to back up my claims.
You can. All right, so yeah, start providing that, because like
it's not. I don't. It's like I know about, like, it's in books. Like, I know a lot of books that I've read that'll back this shit up and I'm not talking about like books from Joe Schmo. I'm talking about books from technocrats, like people.
I will completely grant you the premise of everything you're saying right now. All right, so I'll completely grant you that Democrats and Republicans both politicize climate change. I will grant you the whole world government conspiracy theory politicizing climate change. What is your evidence dismissing all of the scientific data of climate change, man-made climate change?
Yeah, I can't really argue the science because I'm not scientifically minded, but I've read the books by people like there's a United Nations think tank, right, called the Club of Rome, and they put out a book called The First Global Revolution. And so this is like this is an idea they've been talking about. World government, the leaders have been talking about this for a long time, and I think there already is a world government, but they just they haven't got the public to be able to accept it quite yet. Or I don't know, maybe they're gonna like keep nation states around for.
So do you think that does this world government control, like, say, countries in the Middle East that follow Sharia law?
I don't know. I don't know the details of everything. Okay. I know that they've been talking about a plan for world government. Like David Rockefeller mentioned that in his book Memoirs. He said, I have been often accused of being plotting against the best interests of the United States and conspiring for a one world government. If that's the charge, I stand guilty. David Rockefeller admitted to this, and he's part of this conspiracy.
Right. So I'm not saying that people don't strive for a one world government, or even that some governments aren't striving for a one world government. I would like to, for one, give me reason why one world government would necessarily have to be a bad thing, outside of Revelation says it'll happen before the world ends. But beyond that, like I said, I granted all of that stuff. All of that stuff can be true.
Right.
What's your proof that the scientific data, because the science is essentially separated from the politics. So what's your evidence,
I don't
if
believe
anything, that the scientific data has been forged for this conspiracy?
So you don't think the science is separate from the politics?
No, absolutely not.
So how could you account for? But then how could you account for the ecological research that I did when I was volunteering at the museum? Because there was, as far as I could tell, like the funding for that was actually like from public funding. Like there was no aim whatsoever, no like pressure from any party or anything on particular results. I was literally one of the researchers that was working on this. Or rather, I was one of the, quote, hired hands that did a lot of the actual in the dirt work. Like I was the one who physically rinsed the samples and cataloged the data for the researchers.
Are you trying to say that you don't think science is politicized? Is that what you're trying to say?
I didn't say that it's.
I'm not saying
my argument. I don't know if you want to argue that.
I'm saying that it's separate from the politics. That's what I'm
saying.
Right.
There's a clear distinction now between various scientists having different political agendas, right? So politics, which is endorsed by some scientists who, even in their technical work, will note the fact that they were funded by some particular organization. Between that accusation, which can be found in literature, and between trying to paint that picture as a whole as being a politically charged endeavor.
Yeah, and I agree with that. You had, look at the cigarette companies in the 1950s, yeah, where they sent their scientists who were paid off to go and talk to Congress. That's fair, but it doesn't speak to the actual data.
Right. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to get across, is that you may have scientists which have a political agenda to fulfill, but you can't draw from that all science is politically driven.
Well, and not only that, but there are aspects of science that don't tend to feature into policy making whatsoever.
But I said earlier that I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm talking about specifically about politicized science used to push agendas.
All right. So when it comes to climate change, there's actually empirical evidence of that, but it's on the other side. It's that 2% of scientists that actually go against the mainstream that we've been able to prove the vast majority of them get paid by the fossil fuel industry, who stand to lose power and fortunes based upon this data. So there's evidence of what you're saying, but it goes against what you're actually trying to say here.
Well, and it also goes against the fact that there are a number of climate scientists who did not get into this to prove that climate change was real. There are people who have set out to prove the opposite and found that their data did not match their initial hypotheses, and you can't really account for that either.
Not to mention, like, I live in Michigan. We literally had not even really one real snowstorm. Like, I'm going to do a Republican thing right now. I'm going to pull that snowball, but I'm going to do the opposite thing. We ain't had no goddamn snow in Michigan.
That's because the polar vortex was strong. That's because of the polar vortex, though. The polar vortex was really strong this year, so that's why we had a mild winter.
I mean, I haven't had a real winter in Michigan since I was a kid digging tunnels to get to the car, and people were dying in snowdrifts. We haven't had a real Michigan winter here in quite a long time.
All right, so
but that's not
Mr.
evidence.
Parker?
I'm just bullshitting you.
All right, knock, shush. Mr. Parker,
1997.
Immutable Destiny. Do one of the two of you mind making some room? We got a very special guest who wants to come on.
Oh, Ocean. Did Ocean send you
Is
the,
either one of you willing to volunteer to pop off?
Yeah, I'll hop off.
All right.
See
Thank you
what-
for coming on for a bit, Mr. Carker.
You're welcome.
And feel free to come back in if a spot opens up. I can always also just hop down into the guest room too. At some point, if we need more people in, if more people want to come in and conversate, definitely don't let my silliness, and I'm being half serious because winters here have been crazy. This one was especially crazy, but that's not evidence of anything. I'm talking about real empirical data that's an overwhelming consensus, and to suggest that such
All right, Knock, I
consensus
sent him the
is-
link. Oh, there we go.
to suggest that
I'm a
such a consensus
prophet.
is a political conspiracy or whatever.
Wow.
Welcome, Ocean, back to the
Hi,
channel. It's
Ocean.
been a long freaking time, man.
Hey, what's up,
Ah,
Ocean?
what's up, man? How you
Did
doing?
it, Ocean, did I just hear you go, ah?
Yeah, I just went because I started hearing sound from like 15 different directions, and Aaliyah kind of like talked me up before I came in. I'm like, shit, now I got expectations that I got to
Well, you
live
are
up
a
to
special
and
guest.
shit.
You're a friend to both of us. You are a major friend of the channel.
Okay, cool. On that, I was just like, man, I'm not coming in here with like prepared statements or anything like that. I was just curious about a couple of things. This is like a very interesting conversation to me.
And no, I said you're a very special guest because you are a very special guest. You are one of Knock and
Why, thank
I's
you.
closest friends for both
I
of
will-
us. So of course you're special.
Then I very much appreciate that, and thank you for the honor. I'm I was watching the conversation happen, and I think that I had some feelings. I think P Mars is putting forward I watched him move the goalpost I think twice, which I thought was a little weird. And I think that
Dude, I'm
we're in a
up against
situation-
like 5 people here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know you're getting teamed up on, dude, and that's like props to you for standing against the slings and arrows and all that shit. But I am seeing like you shift your position a little bit, where you talked about science being politicized, and then you're saying you're only talking about science that is politicized, and then science is part of the
No, no,
politics.
no,
It's not part of
I-
politics. There
I-
is a one world
no,
government. There's not a
I
one
d-
world
I
government.
said-
You don't know how long it was. but
No, I'm not doing that
there's
at
a
all.
lot of-
I'm just saying I can't answer every
I was
question.
quoting you.
They're
so I don't know
asking
what
me.
to do.
They're asking me questions about the one world government. Like I don't know everything. Okay,
But you
And-
hold to this position, right?
Asking for like the
Yes.
fundamentals.
Hold on a second, guys, because I want to suss a couple of things out. So, what like you said?
Can
you
you
don't know
answer
very
every
much about-
question that I can?
No,
Okay,
come up with right
guys.
now?
Guys,
I'm not
this is now a moderated debate for a few minutes between Ocean and P Mars.
I don't want it to be a moderated debate. I just got
Yeah.
questions. So, like, okay, you hold to this position though, right? About a one world government.
Yes,
Okay, but you don't seem to know anything about it.
I wouldn't say that. I'm not. I can't answer every question about it.
You can't answer questions.
I
like,
don't appreciate you trying to
Hold on.
marginalize me, and I think you're very. rude.
I'm definitely marginalizing you.
Okay.
So here's the problem that you hold to a position about a one world government that you don't know who leads it, you don't know how long it's existed, and you don't know what it does, and you don't know where it is. Right?
No,
Oh, well, can you answer some of those questions then?
no. You can read.
Cool.
So I mean,
You
whatever
can read
want,
if you're interested. You can
I've
read.
made my point, Leah. I'll hand it back to you.
If you're interested, Ocean, if you're interested, you actually want these questions answered. I suggest you read "Tragedy and Hope" by Carol Quigley and the
Okay, but if you claim but the problem here is that you have come here and you've presented these ideas as
Hold
evidence
on.
for your claims.
Hold
No,
on.
I'm not going to hold on because I'm going to make this statement and then you can answer it. You have presented this as evidence for your claim that climate change is not real and that it's politically funded, and yet you yourself do not understand the reading material that you are sending us to enough to defend your position. This is kind of either an indictment of your ability to comprehend what you read, or it's an indictment of the material, one or the other, and I would like you to let me know which one it is.
Well, I think you're a cunt, and I don't really want to answer your question because it's loaded.
So you don't want
Whoa,
Look at
whoa,
you.
whoa,
conversation.
whoa. Yeah, he's gone.
What the fuck
Um,
was that?
Nice trolling, though.
Excuse the fuck out of you. Of
Yeah,
all the people
wow.
you use that word about. Of all the people.
Well, I mean, I knew it was gonna happen. It was P Mars, like the dude. Like I recognized him. Ali's right. We banned him for trolling in the chat.
We banned him for slurs, and if I remember right, he was one of the perma-banned people who got banned during the mental health stream.
That's why he's using that banana nana nana name. And so when he came in and I saw P Mars, and you even see when he first came in, he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't change profiles." So as soon as I saw P Mars, I was like, "This is not going to be anything real true," and hopefully I don't get porn bombed.
Well, I do think, though, that my point that I made stands. I don't think that was an unfair assertion to make. If he does not understand the material he's presenting enough to him...
Should I have kicked him like that?
Nope.
I mean, I could have addressed him calling me a cunt. My response was, well, I have one. What's your point? But, like, legitimately... I don't think that I was mischaracterizing and that it was a false dichotomy. He was saying that he couldn't answer those questions. That means either he didn't understand his reading material or there's a problem with the reading material. There's no other explanation.
They're gonna call us cowards. Hey, for the record, banana, we pretty much agreed that Knock shouldn't have kicked you.
Yeah, so I probably overreacted there. I had him down in the studio.
It was a little quick. I think we could have chewed on him for a little while longer before he kicked him. But
yeah.
I think that I thought it was interesting. Whereas I asked him, I think it was 3 questions about how long it's existed, where it is, and who runs it. As this one world government that he believes in. And I said, can he answer any of those questions? And he said no. Okay, well, what the fuck are you defending then? Like,
yeah, why are you bringing this up as evidence? If you're bringing this up as evidence for your claim, why won't you answer questions about the evidence you're bringing up? We need to understand these things in order to have a discussion about this claim you're making.
Right. So, and I want to clarify something as well, because he said, I don't know every little detail. And that's just fine. He doesn't know every little detail. That's fine. But if you want to come in and defend a position, you should know at least some of the who, what, whens, and wheres of it. Like, give me a description about what it is that you're actually talking about. His position seemed deliberately vague and slippery enough to get past anybody that was asking any specific questions about it, and it was a little frustrating to listen to. It's like give me a couple of details, just descriptive ones about what you believe. And when it came right down to it, it got into a situation in which I don't think he knows what he's defending. I don't.
No, I mean, I could have provided more details about several conspiracy theories about one world governments. It could have been the Illuminati. It could have been white nationalists. It could have been American imperialism, colonialization. I mean, it could have been several of many conspiracy theories that are out there.
It was hand wavy technocrats. Like, it didn't. There was nothing. Yeah. We didn't get any specifics about who, what, when, and where.
Yeah, I do apologize.
There were some things about, like, well, it seemed whatever science he doesn't like is the problem for him. I do.
That sounds like cognitive dissonance. I am sorry
for booting him out of the room. I shouldn't have done it. It was a knee-jerk reaction to the cunt word. Like that just came out of nowhere, and it just surprised me. And I'm like, all right, here, P Mars is. I felt like, all right, it could be like a porn bomb next time. Like if I don't know. The guy has a reputation, and he's been banned several times for a reason.
Yeah, and again, like, I wasn't, like, him calling me a cunt it was not really all that helpful, but it's also a word that I have used on stream before because I'm too British not to. So it's a word that, like, if I'm gonna be dishing it out, it's a word that I can't have a problem with being said, and we're not monetized anyway, so it's not like it really mattered to YouTube all that much. It wasn't a slur. He didn't technically break the rules there.
Yeah,
however,
I use the word
just insulting your opponent doesn't make a point.
I mean, if you're using that word towards a woman, I would maintain it is a slur. If you're using it as like, President Trump's a cunt, I think that's a totally different thing.
I think that the intention matters a lot.
Yeah.
And how he was presenting himself, it was definitely a slur, which is
Again, for me, I have a bit more of a British sensibility about that.
Well, I shouldn't have had.
For me, it's a word I use.
Yeah, I know, but he's not British.
Yeah, I guess that's perfect.
He knows exactly what he meant.
Intention matters. It's who it's coming from. If a British person says cunt, then I'm not gonna. It means something different than when an American does. Right. So, and then but he came in here and used it with a certain intention. So there you go.
So for anybody else, if we want another Christian to come in, if y'all want, like, if there is another Christian hanging out in the chat, shoot me a message or tag one of us, put out an email, Twitter, something. You can come on in. But I think this is a really good place since Nug does have an upcoming debate and Ocean's here and he's quite good at this sort of
I
thing.
do want to hear everybody's
So talk
thoughts
about
on
what is and is not an effective argument and like how if you were going to present an argument, say, against climate change, this could have been done differently. You know, not obviously not creating one, but like what could have potentially been an effective argument in this case rather than just, you know, calling somebody a cunt and running off.
Well, there's a certain with most debates anyways, there is a certain it's like call it context if you want to, but there's a certain style that a person would bring forward evidence. We're actually going to say what the evidence is going to be and what it's going to lead to, and then bring forward the evidence, easily marked out evidence. Like I'm building one right now that in my what I think completely like destroys the idea of the Lucan birth story of Jesus, like more than what most people would hear. More than just wait, Mark or Luke and Matthew say two different things. Sure, but there's a lot more to it than that. And then it's like these are the ways 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at the end of that, it says these are the claims that are made by the author of the Gospel of Luke, right? As well as in the Book of John and stuff like that. These are the actual claims. This is the reason that these don't hold scrutiny. This is what's probably the case otherwise, and then a summation of that. And that's, that for me, that works out really well. So
you can't see it because he's barely off screen, but one of our dogs climbed on the air mattress, and he is currently snuggled up like a little croissant.
Yes, the other one's right here.
It's very cute.
Yeah. I really think like in the context of the climate change debate, like he could have came at that in so many different ways and just even like argued crazy shit, but still argued and had like legitimate arguments to draw from as he got really upset because Ocean just plainly pointed out, like, what is your beliefs here? Like, clearly you have them. Why aren't you saying what your beliefs is? Why not just spit it out? And he didn't want to do that. And then he got frustrated for us asking him to do that. Like, dude, you literally came here and made the claim. When it came to climate change, you actually had a decent argument if you followed through with it. The politicization of the climate change issue could have been a legitimate argument if you actually had arguments behind it, but you didn't. You couldn't even provide the arguments behind that, let alone the crazy worldwide government you put forward. Now, as a Native American, when it comes to, imperialism, colonialization of the world, I might actually get behind you on some of those arguments and maybe even be able to back you up with some fact. But you couldn't even go to like the fucking Illuminati. I mean, that was like a serious problem. You have to be able to provide arguments to the fucking claim, or you're just trolling and waiting for the moment to say cunt.
Yeah. Oh,
Basically.
I think that Mr. Parker had a wonderful question in the chat, by the way, about morality. But Ocean, sorry, I just wanted to say I saw morality.
Sure, Mr. Parker, if you want to ask questions about morality, go ahead.
And Mr. Parker can hop back in now if
Also,
if we don't get another
Christian
Christian volunteering.
Someone still has a comment highlighted, and I don't know who it is.
Deems off the screen.
Yeah, I should like totally get that off the screen, huh? I'm pulling a Matt Powell right now.
Well, and I mean, if there's a Christian out there who wants to get into a fight with a couple of pagans about something, there's actually two of us in the chat right now.
Don't bait it out.
He's like, don't volunteer me for this, please.
I didn't wave my flag around.
Come on.
I was actually. So when I came in and thought this Pete Mars guy, I was under the understanding, and it was probably completely wrong. Naka, is that the guy you're going to be debating on?
No, that's Travis is the guy he's going to be debating. Travis also debated T-Jump.
Yeah, who's Travis?
He doesn't have a YouTube channel as far as I could tell, but he did debate T-Jump on exactly the same thing, except that debate looked like it was focused more on fine-tuning of the Earth as opposed to physics.
Who's with these people without YouTube channels going into debates? I mean, I did that. But
How dare they?
And I'm not talking about Travis, but you can you can tell them obviously because they don't know how to work their audio.
I got into like 3 or 4, and I don't have a channel.
My first
Or I
one,
didn't at the
yeah,
time.
last year around this time actually.
Yeah, on,
definitely did not have
yeah.
a channel.
Easter weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we started it right after.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So.
My channel is now. I just learned. My channel is a year old as of 2 days ago.
Aww.
Happy year.
man.
Happy
year-old
cake
channel me.
day.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so jealous.
It's like
Wait.
Surus was like, "Hey, Ocean, make a video," and it's like, "Fine."
Fine.
Twist
Started
your
a
arm a
channel.
little bit.
Well, I mean, you were that person who didn't have the YouTube channel doing debates for a while.
Absolutely, that was me. That's yeah. But
I mean, to be fair, that was me for a little while too. Like Pig Puncher, before he rebranded as Xanderhall, I would come on and fight chuds, and I helped do that in his Discord and all that
Oh,
shit. And then everybody was like, "Make a freaking channel, Allie."
Taka had
Okay.
1 month of being a serious YouTube content creator.
What's that like?
All right.
I have no idea what being a serious YouTube creator means. I figure that part of that concoction is to make a video once a week, which I don't do. Like I'm terrible at that. So, like I was supposed to make a video last week. I got a script for it sitting around. It's been there for a little bit. I just haven't set that. I was going to record it now, but then guess what happened? I got distracted by watching Naka's channel, and then I decided to stumble into this room.
No,
You guys are helping me procrastinate. Like,
well, I wasn't
finishing
expecting
up
that
work to
I was,
happen.
I was finishing up work, and then Ollie gets in touch with me for good reason, mind you.
Oh, Mr. Parker dropped out.
Oh, darn it. And then it was like, hey, you should join to watch Naka's debate. And it's about, the universe or some shit. And I was like, I should really finish what I'm writing about Luke. And then, I should really join this chat.
2 hours later.
I think it's going to be interesting just because it's not something that I'm known for. So like I took the debate and I told Ali, I was like, I can't look stupid. So I'm gonna have to spend like a whole day, and I did. I spent all day. I got really good arguments, I believe, and I went over them with Ali. I think I'm really ready for it. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised. I hope. We'll see.
All right, so Mr. Parker is back. You had some questions about morality, apparently.
I was just wondering because it's a little bit off topic.
Let's
I mean, there
change.
isn't a topic.
Yeah.
Yes,
Talking about
whatever.
climate change.
We
But
can continue shit talking that other guy.
We'll
Hey,
make
that's
it
the
on
topic.
topic.
We'll bring it
I
in.
guess.
Go ahead, Mr. Parker.
But so I just got into morality, discussing watching videos about morality, and I was just wondering exactly how, I don't know, polytheists are exactly on morality, how they justify it. Is it objective, or is it subjective, or is it
Depends on the
Something like-
polytheist.
I was about to
I
say,
wanna
ask
I wanna say real
the
quick-
individual polytheist.
Oh,
I want to say real
um,
quick what I heard, because I know what you said, but what I heard was that you were thinking about raunchy videos on morality, and I was like, that's interesting. I haven't thought about raunchy videos on morality. That'd be kind of cool. But no, as far as polytheists and how we do morality, yeah, it differs between different
Raunchy
polytheists. I know a
videos on
polytheist that holds the divine command theory.
So do I. It is very fun debating them.
I think
Okay,
are we
so-
thinking about the same person, Alika?
More than likely.
Yeah. So I hold to I bounce back and forth between an individual principles position or a particularism sort of position. I used to be an anti-realist. I've become more of a moral agnostic lately. But I think that there is there seems to be a situation where there are moral facts that exist. But I don't think that those are intrinsic. They exist intrinsically in the same way of an objective absolutist perspective, like Christians think. So
Yeah, I'm very much a subjective morality person myself. I'm a virtue ethicist. I ascribe to a combination of Aristotelian ethics and Stoicism. Although those things are technically in some ways grounded in the gods, they can exist outside of the gods, which you can find when you kind of look at the way that the secular sort of productivity cult type movement thing has latched onto the Stoic ideas.
It's fair. I go by societal ethics with utilitarianism. So
so you can solve trolley fault problems uncomfortably quickly.
Yeah, basically
Yeah.
basically who to triage and who to save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows.
I am less
There you go.
likely to live than he is.
Like if we were
If
both
we
had
both-
the
yeah.
same chance, we had the same symptoms, the triage just based on societal ethics would be to save me.
Yeah.
Just because she's diabetic.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Oh,
Yep. Society
know that.
values me less.
Yeah. But you didn't know she was
Yeah.
You didn't know she was diabetic, or you didn't know it'd be that easy for me.
¿Por qué no los dos?
But what if
the
the
latter of the two.
complication? Okay, so here's a trolley problem though. What if you add the additional complication of one of them having like say knowledge in a particular field that is either irreplaceable or very, very difficult to get back, but that person is also the one with the pre-existing condition?
Sure. Then we have to look at how do we use the. So let's consider it right now, right? Let's talk about Italy or New York or something like that, right? We have to use our supplies most efficiently as well. So we look at let's say that Susan would be able to, provide more to society, but she also has, what is it right now? Ventilators get like 48% survival rate, right? I would imagine that a diabetic on a ventilator would be lower than like anybody that's not a diabetic that's otherwise healthy. And so that would be using be less efficient with the limited amount of supplies that we have. And so the triage would still be the same, even if there is a slight societal advantage.
Well, all right.
Well, I mean, the kind of thing that I was talking about was more like a major societal advantage. You know, if you're talking about, like, say, a surgeon with a pre-existing condition and a layperson.
Sure.
You know, somebody who works at, like, say, McDonald's or something.
Sure. This would be the principle then where it's the canary in the coal mine, right? Where you lose one to save 1,000. And in the event that the one does die, obviously, but it's where you would then try to save this commodity, which is a limited commodity currently. It's the reason that you don't let the commanding officer go to the front lines type stuff. Then yes, at that point, if it is a commodity that's in short supply, but again, that's at that point, then it's getting rid of it basically it's not moral or immoral when it happens, right? It has to come down. It's almost mathematical because it's purely utilitarian. So,
Are you calling me a commodity?
if you're a surgeon, you would be. Also, to me, yes.
Aw.
I'm not a macodity.
Me either.
I like whenever I and Free Spirit is correct in the chat, by the way, when it comes straight on the triage. I had the conversation with somebody yesterday, and it was difficult for them to accept what triage is, and what it means. And it's like, no, it's not a moral decision, but in the end, it ends up being humane.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know what triage was until I played a game called Frostpunk, and triage is one of the. You would love Frostpunk. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm interested now. Ocean God,
Okay,
tell me.
all right. No, you would love it. Okay, cool. It is a civilization building game where in the 1800s, the world is experiencing a worldwide extreme winter. So everybody takes these giant steam engines and goes up to as far north as they can and sets up these massive steam heaters, and everybody's gathered around them and trying to survive. And you have to send out teams to go get supplies and bring them back. And the temperature keeps getting lower and lower, and you have to find ways to build heat in your town so that everybody can survive. And it gets to a point where later on in the game, it gets so cold that unless you've properly prepared, you get an influx of people in your medical system and it gets overrun. So you have to decide whether or not you want to triage or do some other options.
Is that a corgi?
And I was like, fuck. And it also,
yeah.
you can start running your village in a way that is more democratic, or you can go into authoritarian perspectives on it, like being like an absolutist government or a theocratic government. And it's interesting. I think that's why you would dig it.
Lord of the
It's
Flies.
all about running.
They're cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
I end up
awesome.
running.
And it's a really pretty game too. Like, it's fucking beautiful.
No, I do want that.
Brian Stevens is asking about it. I play it on PC. I actually did a Twitch play of it. I sat down in one sitting and tried to get to the end. I lost the first time, but then the second time I was able to get through.
Nice.
Everybody froze to death the first time. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
I had a city full of
Sounds
zombies.
interesting.
Oh, did you choose to let some people live and you probably shouldn't have?
No, I didn't prep houses well enough. There's some there. You should get insulation in your houses early, guys.
So Nathaniel, what do you claim? What is
Don't
your
wait till
response
you
to
need
the
it.
claim?
Do it ahead
Cry
of time.
Nightwolf says, "I have asthma, and I've been told that I have a higher priority for a ventilator over somebody without respiratory problems. Doesn't mean I will, but that's the plan on paper."
Unless triage goes into effect.
Correct. If it's triage, then no.
If there's an availability of ventilators, then yes.
Yeah, and that the issue that I'm kind of running into, by the way, and just so you know, let's hope this doesn't happen. The issue I think that folks are running into, you can put up to 4 people on a ventilator. Just so folks are aware, there's not like one ventilator for one person. You can put up to 4 people, and it takes like 30 seconds to change them out and stuff. So, but yeah, when it comes to triage, that's what it is. And it's the same thing if you've ever seen like Saving Private Ryan. They just walk over a body and they're like, nope, too far gone. Go to the next one.
Yeah.
Don't try and save this one.
So here's a question though. Would you not say, and this is specifically for the American system that I'm referring to this, because we both live in America currently, and because that's the system we're both the most familiar with, would you not say that system, like the triage system, ultimately would end up privileging people who, say, may have underlying conditions that they just never got diagnosed because they either didn't have access to healthcare or because they avoided it? Like, ultimately, they could end up punishing those who have actually gone and sought out care for their conditions over those who may not have.
Well, in a way, possibly. Now, mind you, the system is rigged for those that are rich anyways.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that, but I'm saying, like, we're talking about the utilitarian system. When you apply it to America, there's a problem with it there, I think.
Sure. In this case, it would only apply to a couple of different things, right? With the current pandemic, respiratory issues, or like diabetes, right?
Autoimmune.
Anything really be like.
Well, yeah, autoimmune, which I have 2 of those things, so I would get murdered.
You wouldn't get murdered.
There has been a debate about if a physician could help somebody and they don't, whether or not they are responsible for that person's death.
You know, that's and that has
been a legal debate before. Like, there's some stuff protecting that, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I think that pretty extreme situations, obviously, but it's things that we're seeing in the world right now.
Yeah.
And certainly things that we hope we don't see here, but that I have the exponential growth and the graphs that I've created even are not positive looking right now. It does depend on a lot of those though, and yes, it could. So here's what we know is that the people that don't go to the doctor to get tested for anything usually are not as healthy as they think they are anyways. They just and so they're not. They can look like Kentucky and stuff like that over the course of from 2014 until 2017, where the amount of people that went to the doctor for the first time in like 3 decades, and yet they knew that they were that they had health issues.
Yeah.
Right. So that in a way you could say that it would, but they still have health issues because they haven't been to the doctor because they're scared to go to the doctor.
But I think part of the problem there is that because those health issues are not currently known and may only be discovered through the process of treatment, you still end up in a healthcare system like America's, privileging a number of people who just simply did not go to the doctor to get those issues addressed. Like, I know people who went years type 2 diabetic before they ever got diagnosed. My ex actually went 2 years type 1 diabetic before he got diagnosed, and he ended up getting diagnosed in prison. But he was sort of a mixed type of diabetic because his pancreas like slowly deteriorated because of a different condition rather than his pancreas just not working from birth.
You a lot of times with type 1 diabetes, since it is autoimmune, it'll there is inciting incident, especially for
in his case it was a
especially
blood
for
disease.
older, especially for older cases.
Stanley's dreaming.
Oh, Stanley's dreaming.
He was barking. You see him, he's moving.
Yeah, I know. My daughter has type 1 diabetes, and even though she's 10, and they say it's a lot harder for children to get it, I know that they still can, and if she gets it, it's very serious. We've been told to keep her pretty much in the house for 3 months. She's been separated for a couple weeks now, just me and her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about y'all a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
but all of
dad
you-
has type 1 diabetes, so I kind of know it a little bit.
Yeah. It's very, very harrowing to realize that you as a person are being valued by situations you can't control. And I realize that's happening to everybody right now. Like I understand that. It hits home a lot more.
Like it really did today. I did my, because I applied for the unemployment, and in Michigan it was already extended, and then they're still waiting on this whole stimulus thing, according to them. But I called in today for the first interview, and like they're asking, are you trying to find employment? And I put yes, because technically I did apply to a couple places, but I'm not trying to actively seek employment because I can't leave. Like if I leave, then I can become a carrier and she becomes sick and I can't leave. So I'm hoping that they take, it's the uncertainty. Yeah. I'm hoping they take that into account. I just don't know. You just don't know. And then that day that, if either one of us were to get it, either her having to watch me or me having to watch her, it would be terrible. Like it is very terrifying right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an article that Nathaniel tweeted that was basically what a woman was.
Sounds like something I do.
Nathaniel twits a lot.
He does twits a lot. So it was an article that was in like the New York Times or something like that. Where a woman,
some liberal rag,
something awful like that. So
terrible.
Terrible. The author, her husband, has COVID-19, and he's got to go to the doctor for checkups and stuff like that. And she's talking about how it's this, everybody it seems like everybody else in the world is still functioning on this normal timeline, and that they're standing still basically because she and her daughter, and I think her daughter's like 16 years old or something like that.
Somewhere on there.
They're having to do all of this stuff. They're having to tag team a lot of stuff with taking care of him and everything. And it's just like, that's terrifying to me because it's it's very much a real situation for someone like me and for someone like you, Knock, and for your daughter.
Yeah, I'm terrified. I try to keep myself busy and not think about it.
Yeah, I work a lot, so
Yeah, and like when you come back to funny how quickly we went from is climate science a bunk to COVID? Like every one of our streams ended up at COVID at some point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would like to hear
everybody's.
I would like to hear everybody's ideas on fine tuning at some point, but I don't want to talk about it until tomorrow.
Can I bring up a historical anecdote that's relevant to this situation?
Please do.
So, and Nathaniel actually might be familiar with this as well because he's a bit of a history nut in the same direction, I think. That during the anyway, in Britain during the Gilded Age in the 1800s, late 1800s, and then there was a point when we had just had unbridled capitalism and everybody was pretty much we had worker abuse and everybody was being treated like shit pretty much. And then World War I happened in the early 1900s, and Britain needed soldiers. And when they were pulling citizens out and giving them medical exams to see if they could be soldiers, they realized that they had to bring them into a healthy status before actually being able to put them on the front lines. Suddenly, there was a huge interest in public health care. The thing with that is that a huge international issue wound up exposing a really big problem with public health. And I think, and it was because, people knew it was a thing, but nobody cared necessarily. And it hadn't really reached the forefront of the public consciousness. This is, I think, doing the same thing for our healthcare system. It is exposing so many flaws in what our system has.
Well,
and
and
how
not
it's
just our
managed on
health-
an individualistic basis.
Well, and not just our healthcare system, I think, but also our workers' rights, because one of the biggest concerns when the COVID thing started spreading was people not being allowed to take time off of work. I think that both of those things, regardless of the side of the political aisle you're on, it's obvious that both of those things played a huge role, like the lack of public health care and the lack of affordable health care for a good segment of the population, and the lack of workers' rights protecting sick pay or even just sick time off, let alone sick pay.
What you would think the response to this should be is politicians looking at it and going, oh shit, we should fix this problem, this glaring, huge problem, set of problems that we have with respect to our inability to weather a pandemic. Instead, though, we're seeing like everybody gets split up and trying to use this in order to further political aims otherwise, instead of fixing issues, glaring issues that we have.
I'm definitely guilty a bit of that myself, Ocean. I really scream in my social media, my personal social media, a very leftist agenda. I don't deny it, and I really push hard on Trumpers and shit.
That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I think it's fine to be angry at. I think that when you get into it, the ones that are kind of screwing this up are people that are saying no to healthcare reform and workers' rights reform, and it ain't the left that's doing that.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. That's one thing, and I think that's natural. And I think we all do that. We all play our politics, but it becomes dangerous when it becomes something else, and then you have a political party literally telling half the country to go back to work, and even talking about sacrificing the old, putting the old back to work in this time. I mean, it's just like some of the things that I've heard is really horrible, and it's just like, it's like I don't even know like how to even respond to it at this point.
So, to bring it back to that bit about the Gilded Age, if anybody wants to like dive down that rabbit hole of history, it's a period of time between like 1880 going into like right before the 1920s. So it includes it ends ish between between World War I and the Roaring '20s. But it's a point in time in which you find absolute heinous abuse of unbridled, unregulated capitalism of just lay people in several countries across Europe and America. There's been historians suggesting that in like 2008 to 11 that we were kind of in a second Gilded Age, so to speak. And I think that we're seeing effects of that here with this, and seeing people brazenly say we should send our elderly to work to sacrifice themselves for the Tao. Like that's absolutely over the top. Like it should be obviously disgusting rhetoric, and to some it is, but you're seeing it broadcasted on mainstream media outlets.
Well, and the fact that only so many people recognize that for what it was, it's effectively, as you've put on Twitter before, and I've seen other people put, it's effectively a market-based death cult.
Yeah, it's bum rushing in a pandemic. Which is
and I've seen and from what I've seen, like say Fox News, for instance, is very aware of this, and they've actually made moves to like fire people that were downplaying the virus. But there's a culpability there, especially if people die due to the misinformation that's being pushed out. And from what I've been reading, like Fox News is very aware of this and very, very concerned with this fact. And they still have people like Dr. Oz is peddling some crazy ass shit on Fox News today. or every day almost. And I wouldn't be surprised if even Fox News just pushes that out completely. I would hope so. But it is dangerous. Like, we should be talking about the important issues like you're talking about, workers' rights, how healthcare is linked to work and being at work. And now we obviously see a lot of issues with that. The healthcare system. We should be talking about the important issues that led to this situation we're in right now, but it's been politicized. You either think Trump is saving us, or you actually see the truth and see how he completely fucked everything up and we're fucked and we really need to get our shit together.
Oh, we would have been fucked otherwise.
Oh yeah, even if Trump wasn't in, yeah, and I do try to push that. Like, this isn't all on Trump, not at all. Like, this has been scientists have been screaming about a pandemic for what, 20 years now.
Well, I mean, that happened less than 15 years ago. We had issues with SARS. And we also had H1N1, which my little sister actually ended up in the hospital with, for that asshat that we were debating with, that claimed that, oh, well, anybody who would get sick with this would have died from something like H1N1 or whatever. He was trying to claim that only people with pre-existing conditions. My little fucking sister was perfectly healthy. She ended up in the hospital with H1N1. That... Like, we clearly have had things that have tested us before, but not something this transmissible. And I think it's the transmissibility of it and the fact that asymptomatic carriers can still transmit it. I think that that's kind of what exposed all of those cracks in our system.
Well, I do think we had those warnings and we just ignored them, and they never really hit America hard. And we laughed at those Chinese wearing those masks. I mentioned that briefly in a previous stream, and I think the warnings were there, and just Americans, like, I mean, not just Americans, but people just think that we're invincible, and it's not going to happen to us, and it'll happen to them, not us. Especially at on top of that, the other mentality that has really swung to the extreme the last 3.5 years. It's I think it's a mixture. It's just a bad mixture of everything that came together. But scientists have been screaming about this, like, we need to be ready for this. And we ignored all the signs, all the SARS, the bird flus, the everything.
Well, and we actually have a question from the chat. I don't know who it's specifically directed towards, whether it's you or Ocean, but I'll let you guys both go, I guess. They're asking us to define capitalism.
Oh, dear God.
I'm actually responding to that, but I have one character more than... I'm just going to delete a period after the first use of the Gilded Age, and there we go. So there it is. So, all right, so I'll read it as it's supposed to be said. So I said I specifically mentioned unbridled capitalism for the Gilded Age. Even those who support capitalism, myself included to an extent, would generally support regulations sourced from the Progressive Era, which the Progressive Era is what was kicked off after Teddy Roosevelt started pushing forward for workers' rights in America. According to legend, after reading Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. So, you can still support capitalism and be against an unbridled abuse of workers' rights from unbridled capitalism. But the point, the historical lesson that we learned from the Gilded Age, again, go read about the Gilded Age, is that unbridled capitalism winds up with abuses, and that it needs to have regulations on it in order to have tolerable systems in place. Now, you can get into a whole bunch of political theory about all the different kinds of effects that has, or different kinds of ways to solve it, or different kinds of regulations, or whether or not regulations mean anything, or whether or not regulations on capitalism mean it's capitalism anymore, or whether or not any regulations on capitalism mean that we're headed towards a doomed system of capitalism that will then push us into a system of automation that then pushes us into a Marxist utopia, or whatever the fuck you want to say. There's all kinds of different conversations around it.
Or a dystopia, depending on the person you're talking to.
Right. So then you get into cyberpunk theory and all that other kind of shit. So cyberpunk dystopian narratives that describe all the weird shit that you can get into when you have corporate control over things. It's a whole genre devoted to that. But
okay, so
that's not my point. My point is about unbridled capitalism that took place during a specific period of time around the age of the Industrial Revolution, which we call the Gilded Age, that resulted in several abuses of human rights across the world.
So this person
is that clear? I don't know.
This person is very clearly making an argument that it is So clearly this person is pretty dang far on the conservative scale economically, because they're making the argument that regulated capitalism is an oxymoron.
We do have an open
as I
spot.
said, if you want to say that regulated capitalism is an oxymoron and is therefore no longer capitalism, then you're I don't know what. There's two ways you could go with that regulated capitalism is an oxymoron because all capitalism is regulated, or because it's no longer capitalism if it's regulated. I've seen people make both arguments. Now, if depending on which one he is, then he would have to recognize that capitalism had serious failings in history when it was allowed to just be capitalism in the series of years that I mentioned.
Okay, so Jacob Current, we use StreamYard. If you want to come on and debate with us, you need to let us know what topic you're interested in coming on for. So, like, either put up a Twitter or an email or a Discord name or something like that, and I can send it to you if you want to come on and debate something with us. But you need to let us know what it is you want to talk about before we can bring you on. Okay, so he's claiming that it is by definition. Ed Freeze, if you want to come on to try to have this debate not over
what
text,
is by definition?
Regulated capitalism, that it's an oxymoron.
Oh, well then, I don't know if he means by one argument or by the other, where it's always regulated or it's never regulated. Because I've seen both.
I would argue that most folks who make that argument, I would put out the supposition that the vast majority of folks that I've seen make that argument are on the side of capitalism is never regulated, that it is only controlled by the market.
It's not capitalist, therefore America has no capitalism in it, right? Because we have regulations,
I guess, or it's not capitalist once you regulate it.
Yeah, then once you start saying stuff, because he said earlier in his text that capitalism was good for workers' rights because it's such and such period of time. Well, if it was after the Gilded Age, which is what I'm pretty sure he would be mentioning, because that's when there were advancements in workers' rights, then it would be when capitalism was regulated, which means it wasn't during capitalism, according to his own definitions.
Yeah, I think really the definition that the reason that I'm postulating that, by the way, he says no, capitalism is never regulated in the sense that it exists now by government. Good products and services will stay because people are willing to pay for it, and the other way around. And which confirms.
Don't violate my NAP.
Yeah, that confirms my supposition, because the argument that I was about to make for this is he said earlier, that's just another word for controlled. How is it different? Regulation means you control a certain aspect. So that's where I put, that's where I said it's most likely that he's making that argument.
This is the kind of person that thinks that safety regulations equal command economy. Like it's just not the kind. No.
I'll put it to you this way. I have family members who actually are part of the reason why safety regulations have been penned. I come from a very, very blue-collar family on my mother's side. We've talked about this before. My grandmother had 6 kids. I want to say 6. I know one of them died, so it was either 6 or 7. She had 6 kids and never was able to stay in a marriage for very long, partially because of, just kind of bad marriages. She went through a bunch of abusive ones, and partially because 2 of her partners died in the war. So, she actually ended up with problems with her lungs from working in a glass factory, and there are certain regulations about additives that can be used in glass. It was specifically, I think it was jarring, bottles. They made, glass bottles for something.
But they had, uranium glass for a while, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was uranium specifically. Oh. But there was a chemical additive that was being used in the glass during the era that she worked, and she was one of the case studies used for this lung damage that you could get from this particular additive. So those regulations, she had coworkers who died from that shit. Regulations are written in blood. If you want to argue that the free market is going to fix things, then I'm going to point you to the Irradium girls.
I would be absolutely terrified of capitalism without regulation. I'm like, we see the corruption with regulation. Without regulation, the corruption would just run rampant. I would be terrified of it.
Yeah,
look, that's my stretch alarm. Those go off every hour. Sorry, it's Naka's channel.
No,
I got my phone turned off.
I wonder if telling oil and gas companies they couldn't no longer put lead in gasoline would be non-capitalism. right? You can still have gasoline, you just can't put lead in it because, as it turns out, it fucking kills people. Is that
But the thing
regulated?
is leaded. But the problem is that leaded gasoline caused long-term health problems, not immediate health problems for some people. And so, like, the free market actually popularized the hell out of it because it was cheap and it was extremely efficient for cars.
Yeah, and yet, go to unleaded gasoline, and it's regulated. So the government regulated what oil and gas companies could do. The same thing with cigarettes.
Okay, but coming back to the oil and gas companies, we just got a personal experiences are not an argument from the greater picture. That's not how reality works. The free market would regulate that because a company still does that. Why would you buy? Again, we come back to it was public health stuff that got the leaded gasoline, lead paint, and the uranium girls, or the iridium girls, the ones that had the rotten out cheeks. Those companies tried to suppress that information. It was publicly funded research that exposed a lot of that stuff. The free market, how could you argue the free market would have fixed it when it went on for decades without anybody knowing that it was a problem until scientists blew the whistle to the government to make it change?
Also, Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
Yeah,
that was a big reason behind like working condition regulations and stuff, because so many people died in the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire.
And Ed Freeze, it's so much easier to just come on the stream. We'll totally send you a link. Come on, you can debate this. That would be awesome.
So he's saying that regulate in free market form, not governmental form. The free market, this is shooting from the hip a little bit, but free market regulation, so to speak, and what he's and how he's saying it, in that when the market regulates itself, tends to favor more efficiency and greater profitability. If danger, at the cost of hurting people, oftentimes doesn't figure into free market solutions, as we've seen by people coming out and saying, let's send our elderly to work so that they can sacrifice themselves for the Dow Jones. We must appease the line. The line must be appeased. The line must go up. My stock accounts must rise. Let's send the elderly to work. I don't care if they die. Those are the kind of attitudes that you wind up getting from an unbridled capitalistic free market self-regulation approach. If one of the points of government is to be a check on those kind of systems and make sure that humans aren't being stupid, because mark my words, humans will be stupid if you let us be stupid.
Well, and actually the most shining example that's very, very recent that I can give for that is Teflon. Teflon is an incredibly efficient in terms of money way to coat a pan and give it a nonstick coating. However, the particular chemicals that are used in order to create that Teflon coating, that were used, rather, they've switched them, but they haven't tested the new ones, so we don't know if they're problematic or not yet. There was a mass health crisis in terms of cancer breakout and in terms of genetic mutations of children, many of which were very, very similar to one another, and genetic mutations of animals near the plants where Teflon coatings were applied. And it primarily started with the workers that started having health issues, and then it spread out into the communities as the byproducts were dumped into rivers and such. This was something that the company and that buyers had absolutely had no reason whatsoever to know or care about, and so Teflon became a freaking bestseller. It took whistleblowers from the community and scientists that were working for less than nothing off of fundraising for these communities in order to expose how dangerous these chemicals were.
Yeah, I really like this comment right here. So nobody said let's put the elderly to work. Controlling people to send them to work is not capitalism. Actually, the party of the capitalists did say that. The lieutenant governor of
no,
Texas,
that's not
right?
What he said was we should let people go back to work. Give people the individual choice to say, I will sacrifice myself for the economy.
But the elderly specific, right?
It was It was about saying we can let the elderly back out and say, hey, let's
give them the choice.
This should be an individual choice for people to go back out to work, which is exactly the opposite of what he's saying that we're criticizing. So no one's saying we should make a regulation that everybody above 60 is now in the workforce. It's let's give people the option to go back into work and continue the spread of this virus. Because as soon as you do that, you're putting the people that are most at risk at the front lines of this thing and saying fuck it to preservation of life as a result.
So Ed Freeze,
and just putting that in the individual freedom position, which is what a lot of these guys that are like defending capitalism to an extreme often defend. And what I will say as well, in addition to that, is that when you're saying control has nothing to do with capitalism and such, on those lines, it starts to lead down a system of arguments that winds up with capitalism devolving very quickly, as these kind of people define it, into a form of feudalism, where it becomes very much about control. So
actually, highlight the one above that, Knock, because the one above that is actually his argument.
Choice. Yeah, and by the way, I love the sarcasm in this, but I think one could. By the way, yeah, feudalism is where it would go very quickly.
So in terms of that,
it becomes. Well, I want to hear what Nathaniel has to say, but I want to agree with him that it becomes a corporate feudalism. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely, it does. Where we have 8 or 9 different Jeff Bezos,
Right.
and then we have the entire country outside of them is Mississippi. You know,
there's one minor thing that I want to point out. Sorry, whenever you're done.
I want to give my conspiracy.
Get your conspiracy, but I'm pointing something out.
Okay, go ahead, babe.
No, after you're done.
No,
it's mine's dumb. Not dumb.
Not nothing you say.
Okay. Well, there's one little thing that I wanted to touch on, is that I know Ed was saying further up, and he was saying that people will just choose to buy or not to buy, and that's an incredibly privileged position to take. Because when you have small towns and low income areas that only have, say, a Walmart in their area, and you fundamentally disagree with everything that the Walton family stands for,
but you can only afford to shop there.
Exactly. Then you are stuck not only in this cycle of, I can't not buy from this company because I disagree with what they do because I don't make enough.
And they're the only company in my town, and also my town's a one-trick pony town, which, yes, there are a shitload of small towns that are like this. This is not a straw man argument. This is an argument from experience, because I've lived in one of these. Yeah. Like, the Walmart may be the only major store in your town that you can survive from, and your town is also a one-trick pony type area with nothing but, say, a coal mine or a factory or something behind it. Mm-hmm. Now you don't have enough money to move out of the town either, or skills that you could use to move out of said town. So what choice do you have then?
Yeah, and it just contributes to the idea of, or not this idea of, because it's a very real thing, it contributes to the cycle of poverty that so many people get stuck in because they can't afford to get out of these situations that a lot of times like capitalism has forced them into.
Well, capitalism that we have.
The capitalism we have, I should clarify. Yes, he's right.
All right, and this argument of like letting them make their own choice, it's not really even a choice. So there's this whole thing about the Fox demographic and about how a lot of elderly people actually go to Fox News for their news, and they're getting a false narrative, and they're seeing a president tell them that it's going to be okay. And not to mention, you talk about Fox, then you talk about the Murdoch family, who was actually prepping for this as Fox News was promoting this narrative that it's a Democratic hoax, whatever they were promoting at the time. But then the Murdoch family also owns local news networks all across the country and world, and aren't required to inform the people that watch those local news networks that they're actually getting a political agenda in their local news. So people go to that for reliable sources, and they're getting a narrative that is actually dangerous. And a lot of elderly people are going to believe what they're hearing and go and fucking work. It's not really even a real choice. They're just believing what they're fucking told.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I have a couple of things here. First, the thing that you actually highlighted and put on the screen is just a fucking logical fallacy anyways. But
I wanted to address that a little bit. That's the thing that I was trying to pop in and comment when you were kind of talking a second ago. So just because people are stupid, we need this whole section of a market controlled by governments. I would replace the word stupid with ignorant, because it's not possible for every consumer to know every single thing about every product they purchase. And it's also not possible for every consumer to have multiple products to select from when they want to purchase something because of the conditions that we just outlined. So, in that case, and in many cases, it's not possible for a consumer to make an educated decision on information that is not in front of them. Therefore, the market's not going to automatically regulate itself. You're not going to know immediately as a consumer that Teflon could get into your blood and potentially give you cancer if you use it long enough. Not unless there's somebody to give you that information.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, man. I'll talk whenever I get a chance later.
So he's been saying about how the government's forcing people to get jobs, not capitalism. And my point is, if the only job in your town is to be a coal miner, and you know this job will kill you eventually, would that be the right choice to do? Is capitalism forcing you to get that job to pay for food if that's the only job there's available? Or is that more?
Yeah, that's what Shay's talking about.
And that's a very good example. And you know, they know it, they hate it. There's been people that have spoken about this very issue, and yet they still fight for it because it is their only means of income. And fuck, Donald Trump made it a fucking major issue in his campaign. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, the idea here is, let's say that Walmart comes in a town of like 17,000 or something like that. And then Walmart basically shuts down everything else around it, which it does, by the way, which is why Walmart fucking sucks. Also because they don't pay their workers enough, they don't get no benefits, stuff like that. I have a list. And they come in there, where the fuck am I to work? Are you going to get another job? Where? What would you like me to do? Would you like me to go to get education? How should I do that when education costs so much? And now I have to get a job to be able to pay for that anyways. And now I'm in, how much student debt am I in right now? And then because Walmart pays shitty benefits, you'll never guess where I have to get all my food from. Fucking Walmart. And I have to get on government assistance to do that as well. No, that's what this bullshit is. And fuck you, Dan Patrick, for making me agree with Tucker Carlson for the second time in my fucking life. Can't believe Tucker Carlson and I give a
I've agreed with him like twice.
Yeah. But also, you can't tell me that Fox News, this is conspiratorial, allegedly. Okay. That Fox News didn't change their tune because they realized that their entire viewer base is the most at risk.
It's true.
And they're financially liable if, like I said, there's a lot of debate about culpability here. And if they're promoting a false narrative that they know to be false and can be proven, because we know the Murdoch family was prepping for this virus months in advance. And you can literally prove where the narrative changed from 1 week to the next. I mean, it's so easy to see.
So Ed Freeze's current argument. Ed Freeze's current argument is that there's information freely available on the internet. Bro, do you know how the internet came to be? It was a government-funded fucking program that created the internet.
That's the fucking problem. Like, oh God, like that's like the Matt Powell answer I got in our second conversation when he was talking about the YouTube video that was just proof of pedophilia.
Fuck this dude.
Well, and and on the subject of thousands of reviews, I'm currently an Amazon author. Like, this is a thing. You want to know something that a lot of people actually advised me to do that I didn't? It's called review stacking. If you want to launch a brand new product, and companies have been doing this for a long time, if you've ever seen any website that has customer testimonials on it, you can guarantee the ones that they're going to be displaying are going to be the positive ones and not all of the negative reviews. In fact, any website that isn't, Amazon will post both, but any website that is not Amazon may have the ability to remove negative reviews. And the fact that Amazon doesn't currently is a major, major shock. Like, it is a thing that is quite surprising given the fact that their entire business model basically revolves around, making a profit on shipping. They pay less than, actual market value, or rather they charge less than actual market value for the majority of the shit they sell. But I digress. Review stacking is where you get a bunch of people that you know to buy your product for cheap. You put it out for, say, a cheap price, $1 or $2 or something at the beginning, so they can become verified purchasers, and then they leave positive reviews. And they're usually fairly non-specific, but you can actually pay companies to do this for you, too. Like, there are companies that exist to pay for review stacking. So your so-called, oh, there's thousands of reviews, but guess what? Advertisers have already gamed that shit. Like,
Yeah.
you can't trust that stuff.
Hey, Ed, do you live in Poland? Because he said it's like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was right, by the way. I did the math. I don't know if you saw me doing the math or not.
You were doing the math.
Okay. Because like, if you live in Poland, God, man, that fucking socialism must suck.
Yeah.
Like, it must be the worst.
Really benefiting,
Man,
you know.
that healthcare has got to just eat you alive. Or anywhere in the EU. Or anywhere except for our nation, because you don't live here. You don't know.
If it's 5 a.m., you don't live here.
Yeah, no, don't do that. And also, stop insulting people. You God, that's nonsense. Go learn some shit.
All right, so here's another example of unregulated capitalism. This is actually part of the reason why fire departments are currently nationalized. Early on in the U.S.'s history, fire departments were private businesses. You would have to pay a monthly fee, like a club, to a fire department to protect your home. And there were competing fire departments. What would happen if somebody's house started burning down? There were reports, if somebody's house started burning down, and they did not have protection for the fire departments, fire trucks would drive up and sit there and watch the house burn down until you would pay them, either out-of-pocket cash or agree to pay a hefty fine to put the fire out for you. This became such a major problem that multiple cities ended up having, severe fires as a result that ultimately led to, basically the nationalization of the fire system. Because guess what? Capitalism didn't solve that particular problem. It made it worse.
And Shay, I know they're not they're social democracy. I understand, but
so
the S word.
Yeah, he thinks they're the same thing.
No,
not Nathaniel. Ed does.
No, I don't think Ed does. I think Ed's just being argumentative troll. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna mention, he must be getting socialism and capitalism mixed up, because he keeps saying we're not talking about capitalism at all for some reason.
Yeah, he's just all like, nothing you're mentioning is capitalism. It's just all like,
I'm like, how is it not capitalist to have multiple fire departments that are all private businesses competing in the marketplace for who gets to put your fire out, and not putting fires out if you don't pay them? How is that not capitalist?
Well, and I'm wondering, I've never seen Ed Freeze here, but I'm wondering, does he think that I'm completely anti-capitalist? I actually have more of a position that's probably closer to Ocean's. I'm more of a capitalist, socialist, hybrid type of dude.
You're a social democrat. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm a social democrat.
Welcome to the club. You're
Leokai is Allie's the fucking
I'm an anarcho-syndicalist. I am the least conservative person here.
You hold the same position as the constitutional peasant in Monty Python.
Yes, I really honestly do.
He hadn't seen that movie until a year ago.
That's hilarious.
I was watching Jurassic Park. I can't help it.
I'm correcting anarcho-communist because I'm a bit more conservative than anarcho-communist. I think that large syndicates should kind of do governing type stuff rather than just complete straight free-for-all democracy. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, you're a lot farther left than me and Ocean, for instance. And I would say probably Nathaniel and Susan
Wave. All right, so there's another point about the fire truck, just the early beginnings of it. There was no fire brigade in Rome. The first ever Roman fire brigade was started by a guy named Crassus, who, when buildings were on fire, he had a group that would put out the fire. But when the fire would start, the fire brigade would show up, and they would just sit there and watch the fire until the owner of the property made a deal with Crassus to buy the property from him. And he wound up taking over a significant amount of Roman property by doing this, and became one of the richest people to ever exist on the planet.
Yeah, but again, all of that is free market type stuff with an unregulated.
It's the free market, man.
Get that kind of shit.
Yeah. Unregulated capitalism.
The problem with that is that nobody gave Crassus a bad review.
Not even one. Name one star.
But here's the problem though. We've got this
Nero got
example.
more.
Guess what? When the fire departments were run like that, they actually improved because of competition. Can I get a citation on that, Mr. Ed Freeze? Because honestly, a lot of the time, what competition in the free market does is it pushes, as Ocean noted earlier, efficiency and profit. It does not actually push higher quality products for the reasons that we just discussed. Especially if you're dealing with the lower classes, which have less choice.
Ali,
it'll give you access to premium markets, so you wind up with premium goods. But generally, it's about efficiency and profit margins.
What do you mean communism has nothing to do with capitalism?
We're either dealing with a troll or somebody that has no
this guy just doesn't
political theory
understand
whatsoever. So
No.
Or both.
He's a troll. He's the same kind of troll that I see on Twitter every fucking day.
Yeah.
They come in, they say a bunch of bullshit just because.
I find it extremely funny that this person seems to think that I have absolutely no learning on this, when I've probably read more political theory than he has within like a few days than he has in his entire life.
You are
like, I literally
British on him.
I literally started a YouTube channel to break down communist theory for the masses, because I think a lot of people just parrot back the things that they hear from internet YouTube videos and such, rather than actually understanding the basis for such theories. And I will tell you that communism has everything to do with capitalism. Marx actually postulated that communism is what happens at the end of capitalism after it falls apart, because it's unsustainable inherently. His argument was for a perfected capitalism.
Yeah, it's a difference between democratic socialism and social democracy.
Yeah, we actually witnessed
Bernie
the transformation. Like, we saw it. Like, Ali went from, all right, pleasantly annoyed to, I'm going to kick that ass, motherfucker, right here on stream. And it was, I liked it.
In the form of an accent, and I
you don't
love it.
Yeah, but the opportunity for us at that point to say things like, come in here and say things about, scholarship and stuff like that is just a chance for them to say, oh, how have you learned so much and still so fucking stupid? So that's the point that I'm just like, yeah. Oh look, he actually said it. I didn't even see it. Then why don't you understand what capitalism means? That's like, at that point, I'm just like, dude, you're not trying to have a conversation. You're just coming here to say a bunch of shit to prove that you're so right all the time.
Yeah.
And
never willing to admit that you're wrong.
For being so late, he's able to stay up and type. I mean, you would think he could come in and voice these opinions and facts he has.
Well,
It's 5
Poland.
a.m. in the morning. He can't do that now.
They get up early in Poland. So he's Stanley.
I want to know who's regulating him from.
Yeah, like, why can't you sleep in?
Yeah. So I do like, Ocean, what you pointed out. Cheap goods of terrible quality that barely function but are affordable and do the job functionally are highly efficient. It's just like that whole $10 pair of boots. It's with like the cardboard soles that's gonna last you 6 months, but a $50 pair of boots, with the leather soles and everything, is gonna last you, fucking 5 years. By the time you have spent the same amount in that same period of time that the leather soled boots would last, you've spent so much more on the other boots, or whatever the time period is. I don't know.
You've heard you're describing the phrase, it's expensive to be poor.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's that exact thing. Yeah.
I literally in my closet right now, I have a pair of work shoes that I've worn for about a year and a half.
Come out of the closet on air.
Yeah, I'm coming out of the closet. Look, I had this pair of work shoes. They're like BK Knights, I think, really cheap. I got them from fucking Walmart. I wear them to work, and then I don't wear them anymore. I've had them for about a year and a half. Most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever had, and they have sustained me. I probably need a new pair at this point. I've had this pair of Air Jordans for about 5 years. I've worn them 4 times. They just destroy my feet. They hurt. It's one of the most uncomfortable pair of shoes that I've ever owned, and they probably are one of the most expensive pair of sneakers anyway that I've ever owned, at about $180, I think. So yeah, I mean, literally the $20 BK Knights have been a far better shoe for me than those $180 Air Jordans.
So I want to respond to the whole argument from authority won't help. Where the fuck do you think the concept of communism came from? That's not an argument from authority. I am talking about the literal invention of the concept of communism. It has everything to do with capitalism, and just because you don't know anything about it doesn't mean that I'm, quote, arguing from authority.
And to claim that I'm a socialist, like, you clearly don't understand political theory whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm writing a bad review of Crassus right now. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
One star.
That's what's known as a callback.
It's exactly why I say like Bernie. They're gonna call whoever it is, Joe Biden. He's gonna be a socialist. I mean, Donald Trump. I mean, it's gonna be Hunter Biden and socialism. No matter who you are, they're gonna say that you're a socialist.
I would love to have anybody tell me where Joe Biden's a socialist.
Right, Mister. I'm still not going to support Medicare for all, even.
But he wants Obamacare.
He said he would veto it. That dumb.
Hey, guys, that name is banned on stream. He's old handsy, all right? He's old fucking handsy.
I mean, it's beyond that now. There's like credible
Old
accusations,
handsy.
Sexual, like full out sexual harassment in the office workplace. People are
Apparently,
trying to ignore it.
Apparently, yeah. Now there are
Tara Reid.
There are I was talking to Susan about this the other day. There are enough unpledged delegates still, but it's close.
I've been reading that people are really starting to have a change of heart. Like Bernie's policies are really starting. I mean, in this whole pandemic, you would have to imagine that people are like universal health care, duh.
Yeah, but anybody could run this better than Donald Trump, as we've seen by the rest of the world.
Yeah, I don't know.
If it was a three-way race between Trump, Biden, and a house cat, I would vote for the house cat.
Come on.
I would too. I honestly would. I really would. I mean, I'm going to vote Biden, but it's like it's with Hillary all over again. I'm going to swallow Biden.
Calcifer might be running. He's been talking shit. He's been talking about how we can save the free market from tuna. He wants to barf on the shoes of the establishment. There's a lot of good policies coming from Calcifer over here. He's been talking some smack and thinking it might be time to run. You know what I mean? He's going to be going third party though. He's not doing this Democratic nomination shit.
What would his party be though?
The Democrats. We're looking for a pug to be his running mate so that we can unite the Democrats and the Republicans under one banner.
Even the corgi groaned at that.
Ocean, can I ask you something? Given that we're both sort of being gone after, this person said capitalism according to someone's definition. So first off, do we need to prepare the altar for sacrifices to the dictionary? Because it seems like that's what we're being asked to do.
Susan, are you okay?
She's a fan of puns, man.
I think you broke Susan.
I think I definitely vote for a cat over Trump.
Okay, I can mute the camera or the microphone. I can't mute the camera. The microphone, if you want.
Mute the camera.
What's up, Richard?
I think that if we had a pug leading the country, we would have the country could be described as pugnacious. Ha 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 ha.
Like honestly, your image currently is perfect for that particular tone and laugh.
I don't know. Animals haven't worked out so far. We've had an orangutan in office for 3.5 years. It's a Bill Maher joke. I don't even like Bill Maher. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's not a good joke.
Honestly, he's a Cheeto. Like, I think having snacks in office is the problem. We have a Cheeto in chief right now.
I thought it was funny that Trump took him seriously and actually tried to sue. I thought that was hilarious.
It turns out you can't do that. Like, didn't we settle this like in a war where we said, and then the Supreme Court was like, yeah, remember that time you guys, fought a war to make sure you had the freedom to say bullshit like this? Yeah. That time you did that.
Freedom to talk smack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a big Bill Maher fan, especially anymore, this cycle. But yeah, I mean, come on.
What did Bill Maher say?
What hasn't the fucker said?
Yeah,
well, so Trump made the claim
I know he's an idiot, but
Trump made the claim that Obama didn't come from America. He came from Kenya. So Bill Maher said Donald Trump didn't come from human stock. He obviously came from an orangutan, and played a picture of an orangutan and Donald Trump beside each other. They looked similar. I'm not going to lie. It was a joke, and Donald Trump sued him.
Yeah, and obviously you can't sue him for that, but you can see the connotation there as well.
Yeah, it wasn't a good joke. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Did he just like go ape shit over it or what? Like, did...
Oh, come on!
That was a good joke.
The demolished doctrine looked like he's staring at Stanley.
Hi, demolished doctrine.
Like the way you're looking at the
I'm
I'm
camera.
laughing because
Stanley is
Susan's laughing now.
right there.
Sorry.
No, you okay?
We're good. We're good. Okay.
Oh, this has
I'm
been a
good.
fun stream, man.
Ugh,
Impromptu.
my sides hurt, so thanks.
You're bruising her ribs, Ocean. Come on.
I'm sorry. I
Like you're going
apologize.
to limit her ability to breathe for all we know.
I can tell that she doesn't. She has zero of the symptoms of COVID-19. The fact that she can laugh like she is, tell you what.
And the fact that I haven't
Yeah.
gotten winded on our dog walks.
That's
This
true, yeah.
conversation has been a breath of fresh air.
Ocean, you're done. You're officially done.
I think Richard's trying to figure shit out, man. He's deep into it. What's up, Richard? Do I got you muted? Maybe I got you muted.
Yeah, that's really nice.
No.
Wait, I got Exmo Lex. She's awesome. She said spam me with your favorite Twitter atheist, and my buddy Samuel said me.
Aww.
I mean,
Aw.
Precious.
you can't have any money, Samuel. Appreciate the.
I wish I was still a Twitter atheist, but I guess apparently I'm a Christian now, so
Oh yeah,
I mean, of course.
when did that happen?
I don't know. I guess it did, though. I mean,
Who's saying you're a Christian?
Misha Popoff sent
Oh, okay.
emails out. Oh, he sent emails out. Ocean.
You're a
It was-
secret
it was
Christian?
terrible. Yeah, I'm a Christian. What I did was I think I rambled off about how I ran with the raging atheist because I was an atheist at the time and I was being called an atheist. And over a period of time, talking to much smarter people and studying a little bit of philosophy, I came to the realization that philosophically, I'm probably more of an agnostic. But colloquially, I'm still an atheist. And he just can't seem to understand that. So he took that and ran with it and sent a bunch of emails out to a lot of people about,
Including our mutual buddy, Cyrus.
that Christian blogger, I
wait,
believe,
what,
as well.
What position do you hold that he twisted into that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Your actual position is...
That he's an agnostic.
Oh.
Well, philosophically, but like if you ask me the question, do you believe in a God or that a God exists? I say no. So that makes me an atheist.
Right. But
Technically.
you're also you don't hold the position that it doesn't, so you hold yourself.
Yeah. I grant the premise that it could exist.
Right. Could.
God damn it, Steve McRae.
So here's
to
the because I think that a lot of people that wind up that Steve McRae will convince are agnostics are actually atheists, because the question is what you believe, not whether or not you'll defend the claim to the death. So if you believe that a God does not exist, then fine, you're an atheist. It doesn't matter whether or not you know it or have certainty about it or can demonstrate it in the court of scientific peer-reviewed journals or some shit. Like, it's just this is a belief that you hold, a position that you have, is that no gods exist.
Yeah,
now, if your position
and
if
like,
the
I
belief
don't-
that you hold,
that changed over time, Ocean. Like literally, my conversations.
So if
with
you
my
don't hold
pal,
that
I
belief,
hold that
though.
position.
right?
I grant
so
your
you move away
premise.
from that. You're more like, well, I don't know what I believe about it. Would that be more accurate to say?
Yeah, well, like I definitely don't believe in a God, but like, do I have definitive evidence? No. Have I had personal experiences that would make me question a definitive belief that there is no God? Yes. Me and Allie have spoken about him. I might have spoken about him with you a little bit, Ocean, as well.
Yeah, of course. So you're now in the position of like, open question.
Yeah, it's
I'd say
I'm not
that's more
going
of
to
an
sit here and say
agnostic
it
thing.
wasn't a God. Like if I get into a fine tuning argument with Travis tomorrow, I'm not going to tell him no, it wasn't a God. I'm just going to be like, prove it was a God, and then prove it was yours.
Prove your specific one.
That's your entire debate, by the way. You don't even need to say anything.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying.
I do have a
I
lot
think
more
in
stuff
a
to
debate
say, but
setting-
yeah, that's the debate, right?
Yeah, in a
That's
debate
it.
setting, I want to say, because like you can take advantage of the position of like, look, you're just holding a dissent. I'm not convinced by your arguments. And then you point out the problems with his arguments from there. You just want to be a gadfly. You can win a debate from a perspective of holding a dissent doing that. You don't need to say, well, it was actually this. You can just say, well,
Yeah.
your argument doesn't work here, and here's why.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
and
the whole.
Yeah, like we did a lot of debate prep. I definitely think that Nock is definitely prepared for that debate.
Yeah,
That's good.
this isn't going to be a Matt Powell situation.
Well, that's good.
But kind of, I guess, coming back a little bit to the agnostic thing and what Misha did, what he did was he sent out many emails, including to Matt Powell, to atheists and Christian YouTubers that I just heard coughing and what might be throwing up, so I might have to go check on my husband in a second.
Oh, no.
So I'll be right back. But he sent out an email saying that he was becoming Christian.
Oh,
There's even a video now.
that's really weird.
There's even
Where
a
we
video now.
addressed it.
I might actually. It's like a 2-minute video. It's Misha, but you might have. He's been in the chat recently. It's like Eternal Song Ministries or something like that. There's like one subscriber. Misha sent me the video, so I know it's Misha. And it's a
Okay,
video
guys, I need to
praying for me
go.
be
Yeah,
coming
go
out
ahead
here.
and take off.
All right, guys, I need to go. I'll be right back. I need to go
It's
check.
just disgusting. It's really disgusting. He's really wanting to come back on the stream. He really wants me to put up, and I was going to actually put up the episodes of us covering his article and the 2 conversations I had with the guy. But the fact that he's so desperate for me to do it is like, I don't think I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, he just wants attention.
Right.
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it's a lie anyway. And if anybody says anything, just go into the chat.
Yeah,
and be like,
it's like I'm obviously not a Christian. And he's like, how did I lie about you? I'm like, dude, you said I was a Christian. If you went around saying I was an agnostic, all right, I fessed up to philosophically I'm a fucking agnostic. But you went around and said I'm a Christian. That's obviously a lie. I'm not a Christian. I detest the Abrahamic God. I mean, I don't detest the people. I detest the God.
Yeah, I would just, if anybody made a video saying that I was a Christian based on that nonsense, I would just go in their video chat and say, no, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not.
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
even do
Utah
anything else.
outcast, but more. I mean, the worst. The Matt Powell thing. That's just funny. Like Matt Powell sent me a text message. He's like, "You're a Christian now?" I'm like, "No," and that was it. But like he sent it to that Christian blogger, and that Christian blogger never talked to me about it. Didn't take it seriously. Didn't even ask me about it. But like that is a friend of mine, a Christian that I've developed a really good relationship with, and like Misha just picked him out, knowing that that's the case. That's a Christian. I have a really good relationship. Let's just troll him out of nowhere. I mean, that's what's really got me hot about it.
Ah.
But yeah, he's just a troll, so I'm trying to ignore him. Richard, can you hear us now?
Yes, I had
There
some
you are.
technical difficulties.
What's up, Richard? I saw that you were streaming earlier, so I wasn't sure if he's going to be able to come in or not.
I appreciate the invitation. Hello, Nate and Susan and Mr. Parker and Ocean and Aliakai. Sorry, I said that poorly.
She's not currently at the microphone.
Yeah, maybe
She's
she'll watch
checking
it
on-
later.
She's checking on her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
that's
got a man down, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And I think she told me today they're on day 3
I don't know.
of this, and so he's on some like antiviral stuff. So we don't really have much that will help, but usually by about day 8. So got about 5 days left.
Yeah, I would think that if it gets much worse, that more than likely they'll probably be heading towards the hospital, and maybe Allie won't be available for a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, at the point that I told her things she already knew. Starts making him feel like he can't breathe. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what they're waiting for now is the respiratory to really show those symptoms.
Well, yeah, because they won't even take you in the hospital unless they're basically going to intubate you. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have several issues. I mean, just so much issues from the top down when it comes to that. It's we talked about that earlier. Richard, I'm not sure where you are from, but are you being safe and
Santa Fe, New Mexico is almost vacant. Everybody's just staying home.
Good.
That makes New Mexico makes so much sense. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I
Oh,
drove
that's
through there
hard.
last weekend, not this past weekend, but the one before. On my way up to Oregon, I literally stayed just south of Santa Fe at one of the rest stops.
It's on my bucket list. I want to go to New Mexico
The rest
so
stop?
bad.
So pretty.
Not the rest stop, no.
It's so pretty.
Like
I love Santa
300 beautiful days a year, bro. Like 300
Yeah, I want to
of them.
go. I want to see
Gorgeous.
all the the aliens and all of that shit. But the desert, you know, I want to film the desert sky and see if I see something.
Surprisingly enough, be sure you bring your fishing equipment.
I don't have fishing equipment, but my stepdad does.
But you are a fisherman.
Maybe when I was 6.
All right, guys, I'm gonna take off. It's good hanging out with y'all.
Have a go.
All right, yeah, man.
Bye,
Thanks,
Ocean.
thanks a lot,
See y'all.
Ocean.
Peace and
Yeah.
respect.
Keep on punning.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have kicked the Christian out so early.
Thank you,
I'm-
Susan, for being very understanding with me. And with that, I'll take off. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, Ocean.
All right, have a good night, man.
Jeez, it's gonna go on forever.
My sides still hurt.
She's gonna remind me of these jokes tomorrow. She won't remember any of my jokes, but it's good stuff.
Because I live with people.
Yeah,
I don't have good jokes. Nobody understands my humor. I have a very dark humor.
You have humor?
No, I don't even know. I don't think I do. Sarcasm. I have sarcasm.
Yeah,
Right on.
that's always handy.
I think.
I just really love bad jokes.
Oh, I just said to my, and I didn't say it out loud because I knew I was gonna fuck myself over. I said it in my head. I think Ed's done.
No.
I should have kept Ed out of my head because he just said some more shit. Yeah, there it is. These people are claiming
These
all
people.
sorts.
Why you gotta get racist, dog? These people.
Not
He's
right.
othering.
But when I push them,
These
to
people are
define it,
claiming all sorts of stuff about capitalism, but when I push them to define it, they just laugh and call me troll or cite a source from at least 100 years ago.
I was the one that said you're a troll, and you haven't shown me any evidence to the contrary.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said I think that you're either a troll or just somebody that's stupid. I think
And
that's what I
also-
said.
Well,
He
also,
left options.
nobody-
That's generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Capitalism was defined in the chat. I saw it.
That is
scroll
Yeah, I mean,
by.
Shay is up in that chat, and I know Shay defined some capitalism for that ass. So
Shay made a very good point as well. I think that one of many points that I've seen in it's not my fault you're Polish. It was where she said, I think she said, "Is this person really trying to do this still?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, for real?
Pretty much. So
Yeah.
I mean, as I tell all the trolls, I appreciate the view. Please come back, keep trolling me. I enjoy it. Like I really get a kick out of it. Sometimes it does really upset me, but the only way you can really do that is to invoke a certain things. So I mean, you'll know it when it happens, but it's always fun waiting for it to happen.
yeah, I get whenever I do live streams like on Periscope and stuff. I get so many people come in there and try to troll. I think that's the majority of people actually,
So bad.
and it's so funny.
They come in phases with me. Like I was trying to tell Allie because she gets really upset with Misha, and I'm just more experienced with the trolls, and it does really roll off of me a lot easier. And I'm like, have fun with it, like really have fun with it. And I do. Sometimes Misha really makes me mad. Sometimes there was this one troll that really liked to talk about my kid. I mean, he's intentionally trying to upset me. But that's just the nature of the internet, like that's what people are going to do because they can't really attack your arguments. And I will even maintain that back then my arguments were weak and easily attacked. I've come a long way from when I first made this YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Even then it's like they can't really attack the arguments. So they got to attack you personally, or they got to try to troll you, or that's just what they do. And Allie will grow a skin for it. I know she will because I did.
Hey Nate, you're a real mainstream kind of guy. I mean, you're not going out on a limb on any of the stuff you say, are you?
Oh yeah, no, I'm centrist, right down the middle.
Yeah,
every
he is
single time.
super
Yes.
moderate.
Yeah, and that's so clear. That's why, like, I had to guess. Like, I think Allie might be farther left than Nathaniel.
I don't know. It
could be close.
I'm over there. Like earlier, I think I surprised Susan earlier today because it was about the person that wasn't taking a salary or taking a half a salary or something.
Oh
like that.
yeah,
And
I was just like, I'm trying to find a silver lining in this,
And I
it's
was
just like, bah!
I forgot to say that's great because I immediately went on and I was like, oh, and now when you come back, why don't you pay your employees a fair wage? Why don't you give them better benefits and all this shit? And she was like, and I said, oh no, it's a good thing they're doing that.
Just trying to find a silver lining among this clusterfuck that is 2020.
The silver lining, actually, earlier today, the president had My Pillow guy up there, right? And ooh, that was fun.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Was it the real My Pillow dude?
Yes.
I didn't see today. I haven't seen today.
Yeah, and the
fucking
guy
God.
said a bunch
So, I just got back. I wanted to let you guys know the throwing up was indeed throwing up. My husband had an adverse reaction to the, I guess it was Tamiflu that they gave him. He was dumb, and it said to take it twice a day, which usually means every 12 hours. He took the doses 4 hours apart. I got off the phone with the poison control center, and they said that he's just having an adverse reaction to it, that it can upset your stomach, but that it wasn't enough to overdose. So we've got him cleaned up and back in bed, but that's what it was.
golly.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't anything more
For
serious.
sure.
That's-
And certainly hope that his fever breaks.
Long distance hugs if you want them.
That was insane.
They are being offered.
I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Hugs are always appreciated. You were talking about your pillow guy being on, so to speak.
Yeah, not my pillow. So he's not my pillow guy, but he is my
The
pillow
My
guy.
Pillow guy.
And he said all this dumb shit, and then he who is now part of like the not really part of the Corona task force, or but he's making a bunch of masks or whatever. And he went to shake the president's hand, like the fuck, you idiot. And the president, you're never going to hear me say this ever again. Good job for not shaking his hand, because would rather the president not catch this fucking virus. And I was like, wow, I just saw the president do something not stupid. That's crazy.
And I missed it. Holy shit.
It's
Gotta go back and watch that, man.
It's you're gonna have to listen to what's his fuck face talk about God for 2 minutes.
Oh,
Or you just go to near the end of it, because then Donald Trump comes up to the microphone and he said, I didn't know he was going to do that, which is basically an apology. I guess that's as close as Donald Trump can get to that, because he's like, yeah, I didn't know he was going to say all of that. So,
I listen to right wing talk radio quite a bit, actually. Every time I'm in the car, that's usually what I listen to. Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, fucking there's the worst of the worst. The Mr. American guy, whatever his fucking name is, all of them. And one of the consistent commercials is always that fucking My Pillow. And I mean, this dude is just so ingrained in this conservative Donald Trump movement. It's really scary, and like people I know try to push the pillow on me, and I refuse to even acknowledge it's a good fucking pillow. I don't even want to know if it is, because I don't care.
Blissful ignorance.
Well, he has multiple lawsuits against him. Healthcare people are saying, no, the health benefits you said are unfounded and stuff. So he's part of the they call it the wedge, inside the wedge document. He's part of that. And he's far right evangelical. He gave the president $100,000, I think.
He was
wait.
Sorry, go ahead.
The wedge document, as in intelligent design, that wedge document?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was also in. Do y'all remember that Abby Johnson movie, Unplanned? Do y'all remember that?
I think I remember reviews of it.
It was like last year, babe.
It was last year. So if you're not familiar with Abby Johnson, she is a former Planned Parenthood employee who apparently, quote unquote, got a conscience. No. And she turned super pro-life, supposedly after she watched an actual surgical abortion procedure. But she made this movie about her journey from starting working at Planned Parenthood to being this awful, terrible anti-choice advocate. And the spoiler alert, one of the very last scenes of the movie is them tearing down this health center because it lost its funding and stuff. And the guy who's in the bulldozer who gets to take down the sign and stuff like that is the My Pillow guy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he is a douchebag.
Yeah.
No, I just thought I can't believe somebody like that can operate a piece of heavy equipment. That's what I meant by that.
They probably used a stunt double.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
In all
they're
fairness.
the far right nationalists. The evangelical nationalists is what they are.
Yeah.
And the thing I'll quit crapping on your president. Look, I said something nice about the guy.
He did.
And you know how much that hurts that I have to do that?
It did.
But I'm an honest fucker. So
I mean,
Does that mean that I'm honest?
yeah, you are.
the fact that he's like our president's like highly debatable. He's like the most debatable our president in the history of the country. So yeah,
There's a few.
He
there's quite a few of them.
somebody. I'm just not sure who those people are.
I
and
always
I've never met
maintain
one.
like I'm Native American. Well, I'm not full-blooded Native American, of course, but I have a lot of Native American blood. I personally think Andrew Jackson was probably the worst president in the history of the country. But I have bias.
Knock, I don't think you have to be full-blood Native American to be Native American. I think it's about a mix of culture and upbringing and things like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I just try to full disclosure. I do know a lot of natives that would take offense that like me and know me personally, but would take offense of me claiming like to be Native American. That race matters. So,
I'm a half-breed. I've heard shit on both sides.
Yeah. I just try to be respectful. I don't want to offend. I'm actually hoping one of these days to convince a couple of my friends from North Carolina, from the Cherokee Reservation there, to come on the stream. They're highly, highly skeptical of coming onto an atheist channel, though.
I like
We have our troll keeps demanding freaking definitions. Troll, have you provided definitions in the side chat for us to work with yet for capitalism? Because you seem to be very insistent on constantly telling us what it's not and who we shouldn't get a definition from, but you don't seem to have one you yourself prefer.
Yeah, he could have came on by now and told us his definition of capitalism. I mean,
It's almost 6 o'clock in the morning.
it's almost now the sun's rising. He also said as much as warring ? And
like I'm even streaming longer.
Bro,
than
I am
usual.
a 50% blood quantum. Nuck, you said you're something like between a quarter and a third, right?
I think the number was like 31 point something or another.
Hey, boss, in your chat, you've got a Jacob. Where's Jacob? Where'd he go? Jacob Current. Do you know who that is? I think he's wanting in. He's asking about Discord, etc.
They've been asking. I told them it was StreamYard. They can come in. I'm not going to go too awful much longer. We're going longer than usual, but I'm not planning on shutting it down anytime soon. If you're interested in coming in, we will send you a link. No porn bombing. I don't even know how I would stop that on StreamYard, honestly.
The way that you stop it is you wait until they put a camera on that's normal, like just showing them, and you don't let them in until you've seen them on that camera.
So be willing to show yourself.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson, Jacob, did not start the Democrats. He was a Democratic Republican.
Yeah. He was like, what the fuck was he, like a Whig?
No, he wasn't a Whig either.
Tory.
He was an agrarian. He was an agrarian slaveholder from the South. He was about small government and stuff, and he wanted an agrarian utopia, basically. So he was a Democratic Republican. He wanted it to have states' rights, 150. Like, if you consider 100% states' rights, that's what he wanted, with the Constitution to be there only when necessary.
Why should something take on someone else?
I mean, he rewrote basically the Constitution.
Yeah.
This person says that they will not turn their camera on to verify that they're not going to porn bomb.
Yeah, I can't.
No cam, just voice.
Yeah, no cam.
I mean, Mr. Parker, come on.
Oh.
Well, Mr. Parker's somebody that we know who's been on the show before. Like, everybody currently in the chat is somebody we know who's been on the show before.
I've never really been too worried about it until recently. And it's because I've been fed horror stories. And I know I've had a flag campaign against me, so I'm almost certain these neo-Nazis would almost do anything. Or the Nippies. I mean, nationalist either way. So Yeah, I don't know. I think precaution is better. The stream's not going to go too awfully long. If you want to come on a future stream, I would be more than willing to open up an interaction and see if you're legit and give you a chance. But maybe not tonight if you're not willing to take precautions with us. Richard, I have you here.
Jacob, what is it that you want to discuss? Like, first off, because I don't think I've actually seen you put up a topic. Before, like, go ahead and knock. I just want to get them to say something in the chat really quick because I want to know what they're coming on for.
Yeah, and you can email me at daragingatheist, daragingatheist@gmail.com. If I don't check it, Ali will, and one of us will get back to you, and we'll set it up, and we'll figure out what you want, and you can post it here. I'm not planning on shutting the stream down anytime soon. We can talk as long as we need to. I don't have nowhere to go tonight, but I'm just not interested in this Misha thing's got me a little paranoid. The dude is crazy. He's willing to do anything. I'm not going to put my trust in people I don't know.
That's fair. Nah.
But yeah, Richard, I got you here. So real quick, you mentioned intelligent design earlier. I'm not going into my arguments tonight, but what do you particularly think about the fine-tuning argument and intelligent design?
I think there's big problems. First, I want to say to anyone listening in the audience and anyone who wants to try to come on Nock's show, look, I'm a theist, and Nock and Eliakai have been more than kind and patient with me. So I think more than anything, Naka is going to rage against those who are just unreasonable. Okay, but I've come on and I've been reasonable. They've been reasonable to me. So I just wanted to say that about Nock. Nock's honest. Okay, so come in with an open mind and have a real conversation with Naka, and he's gonna totally support you in that. No, I only mentioned intelligent design for Nate made a reference to the Wedge document, which is proponents of intelligent design coming together to a certain view and for a certain purpose is what that was. And I knew that most people wouldn't know that about what the Wedge document is, so I just wanted to have him clarify. That's all I said about that. I don't think that intelligent design is the way to go in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it supports Christianity in the truest sense.
I agree. I think that it argues actually against a Christian God. I don't think that there's any way you can maintain an intelligent designer, and it's the omnipotent, omnibenevolent, it's not that Christian God. It's just not. You're talking about a God that's confined by physical laws, and limited in its ability to be creative within that system. So yeah, right. I think that it's highly limited if you're coming from a Christian perspective trying to make that argument.
Yeah, I think Christians using intelligent design as a support system for their belief system have not thoroughly looked into those who are writing in intelligent design, that they are mostly deists. They are not Christians.
I would agree with that. At least those that are being honest in their critique of it, yes, I would say that's probably the case.
Yeah, I would say the intelligent design would support deism or some sort of weak deism rather than any certain beliefs.
Right on.
Anything else.
Well, and even then, there's a certain set of things that it says, a lot of the arguments for fine-tuning in particular say about God that I don't think a lot of Christians would want to, sort of admit to.
Yeah.
Well, let's get a for instance on that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, for instance, it limits God's ability to create a functional universe that could support life to a very specific set of parameters.
Yeah, it's like saying, why is God limited to this way of making life instead of anything else? It makes fine-tuning weird, I guess.
That sounds reasonable.
Because fine-tuning basically argues that there's only a very specific set of parameters, as we understand through physics, under which life could emerge. Which is true, as far as what we understand about current physics. But what it argues is that an intelligent designer would have had to create a universe with these very specific parameters, again, according to our understanding of physics, in order for life to exist. But for a Christian who argues an omnipotent God, that presents a contradiction. it's
Sure,
that
of course.
whole, could God create a rock so heavy he couldn't lift it problem. Would God be limited effectively to tweaking, those particular parameters? Or would he, is there some fundamental thing outside of God that would limit his ability to create a universe to these particular parameters?
Yeah,
Like, why, if he's omnipotent, why would he be unable to create any other kind of universe?
Right,
Yeah.
but that only applies, of course, to as Naka said, the ooh God.
Yeah, and so the problem is so deeply fundamental because where was I lost my train of thought. Somebody else go. I'm going to think about it.
Yeah, it would limit God in power of omnipotence, which Christians think is a necessity of God, which their text does not describe.
No, it does not.
All right, so yeah, and why would a God create a universe? And Ali said it, fine tuning for the existence of life, right? Like, so why would a God create a universe where the vast majority of that universe, 99.99999999999%, you can keep going with those nines as long as you want to go, is inhabitable for life to exist?
Okay, inhospitable, I think is the word.
Inhospitable, yeah, that's the word.
Inhabitable means that it could be inhabited by life.
we cannot exist in space. If this universe is fine-tuned for life, then why is there so much space that we can't exist in?
Well, what if
the
spaceships
argument is
were part of
actually
the
a lot
original
stronger
plan?
if you make it that it's fine-tuned for, like, say, black holes.
Yeah, Richard made a point that I actually
Go
heard
ahead.
the other day.
I think I missed it.
Yeah, he said, what if that was what it was planned to be, that it was planned to be for life?
But life in spaceships.
I didn't hear that one. But I mean, I guess that's plausible if one would consider that a God is able to fine-tune something. It can't say no to it, obviously, but the person the other day said that it was fine-tuned that we could live basically anywhere, and then Adam and Eve fucked it all up for us.
Mostly Eve. Sorry.
And Christians are they're so backwards on the whole Adam and Eve thing. Like, they don't even read what it says about them. They just make stories, maybe.
I would challenge any of them to tell me what the life of Adam and Eve, the intertestamental, says. Any Christian that I know.
Anybody can do that. It's not even challenging, dude.
Most of them don't even know that Enoch is a book, let alone two.
Yeah, well.
I thought that was a time period.
No, that's epoch. You stopped that. You knew that. You stopped that.
Enoch, it's an epoch. But,
I am so glad to see you guys on one camera shot together. That is so beautiful to me. I'm so happy for you guys.
I think, Nathaniel,
awesome.
You mentioned in passing somewhere or another, maybe on the stream, maybe on Twitter, I can't remember, but it was like, I think it was you that mentioned, like, God literally tried to mate Adam with an animal. And people don't even, like, read their Bible, because it's right there. Like, I pointed it out in one of my recent videos. Like, yeah, he totally tried to mate Adam with an animal before he made Eve.
You can read it that way, but I don't know. That's a stretch, man.
Yeah,
I pointed it out. It's quite.
And no help meet was found is not necessarily the same as, hey, what do you think about that sheep over there?
Well, he literally, I mean, he literally didn't, in context of creating Eve, because an animal didn't pass the test.
So, I mean, like, I wonder how many experiments were put on before that became a solution in that case. Like, I'm not saying that the Bible is implicitly endorsing such a thing. I'm saying that it's possible to speculate.
Yeah, I don't have the exact verses, but I pointed it out in my last chapter 2 of Stupid video. But it does say that. I'm not lying. It says it.
You're not lying.
Chapter 2 is great. Of course, it mentions what's funny is that it mentions the serpent as not an adversary, and the Satan or the Hasatan in the entire Old Testament is always an adversary and somebody who works under the will of God.
And it's also not necessarily a serpent, right?
Correct. It never is.
Yeah.
There's never a time.
It's not a serpent.
It's
not a snake.
Nate,
Yeah.
I know I've mentioned this to you before. Part of the Black Horse Nebula is the Snake Nebula. You know,
Really?
you ever heard of that one, the Snake Nebula?
No.
And they call it the Snake Nebula because part of it is used up, and it looks like kind of like a snake. It's pretty good actually, but if you look at the clouds surrounding it and toward the tail area, you can definitely make out reversed ears and a spade tail. Weirder still than that, there is a carving, a relief carving in the Euphrates River Basin between 110 and 120 feet above sea level in floodplain of the Euphrates River Basin, where the same shape appears, facing the same way at the same angle when the Earth rotates around and points toward that nebula.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I'll have to look at that and see.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Richard knows all that kind of shit.
Oh yeah, I know that. I have to respond to some idiotic comment I saw in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't. Somebody
There's
said
a whole
that,
bunch of the same idiotic comment over and over in the chat, and it's annoying some of our mods.
Well, it ain't Tony and it ain't going to be Brian either. Is it this Ed
Yeah.
Freeze guy?
Yeah, it's the Ed Freeze guys who's demanding to know, like, what race calling COVID the Chinese virus is racist against.
yeah, it's racist as fuck.
It's definitely racist as fuck, dude. Oh my god.
It's
I mean, like I'm really trying to open up chat, but don't test them. Like if I mean, seriously, mods, do your thing. Like the dude is seriously annoying at this point. Like I'm really trying to open the chat up and allow you motherfuckers to come in here and say what you want, but don't make it hard on us. Like seriously, don't be stupid.
Okay, so the person is claiming that the term racist is vague. Let's get 3 separate definitions from this panel. I'll let any one of the three, I'll let any 2 of the 3 of you go, and then I'll go. Like, whoever wants to raise their hand to define racist in
That's
this
you,
panel,
Nate.
let's go
That's
ahead
right
and get
there.
a couple of different definitions for the word racist.
That's all you, man.
Seeing any particular race as lesser or as always lesser.
There's no such thing as racism. There's only the human race. The actual term should be ethnicitism.
I agree with that. As a humanist, I think I have to.
We are humans, buddy. We are one race.
I would say like naming a virus after a people to take the blame off of yourself when everybody can get it is kind of blatantly racist. That would be my definition of your fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a little bit into history for mine. Go ahead, Nathaniel, because I'm going to take a hot sec.
No, I was saying hi to Anne because hello, lovelies. I don't know who Anne is. Hi, Anne.
Oh, hey, what's up, Ann Kennedy?
Anne is one of our mods and patrons.
Oh, okay. But I have somebody that I allow to continue to comment on my stuff. His name is Alex. And Susan constantly, as you can see, wonders why the fuck do you do that? And I say because I use him as an example. He's one of the racists who, in order to excuse his racism and his xenophobia, and he's not anti-Semitic, but the same people that do that will say that kind of stuff. They'll say, how is it racist? Because they're not actually a race. And he does that. That's the exact same bullshit that this person's saying. And racist, they go racist. So
Accurate.
Okay, so I'm going to go into a lot of detail with my definition because I'm going to go ahead and clamp the jaws of life right around your fucking face, dude. All right, so we're going to start with the origin of the terms for race, because guess what? They're actually political categories. They were created specifically to strip rights of other people, initially based off of skin color. However, as you all know, the definition of the word white changed to just being skin color, whereas for a long period in history, there were certain other ethnicities that were not considered to be white. Ergo, race is a political category. It is a division of peoples that is used by, for political ends to strip rights of particular demographics of people, usually around ethnicities, but quite often just around appearance, and it's very much taken the appearance role. So, racism. Racism is the belief not only that these race categories exist, but that they in some way change the way that people function, live, are affected, etc., and that people's rights should change based off of these arbitrary categories. The answer is, if you are insisting on calling something the Chinese virus and you're refusing to acknowledge that there's a problem with this, you, good sir, are probably fucking racist. Because you believe that it's okay to label an entire people, whether you want to call them Asians or Chinese or whatever the fuck, you think that it's okay to label an entire people as the originator of a virus. When the truth is, the virus has a name. It's called SARS-CoV-2, not the Chinese virus.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it COVID, you can call it Corona, but it's not only racist, but it's dangerous, and it's been proven to be dangerous. Chinese Americans have already seen a rise in hate violence in spite of the isolation. We've seen reports of that already. It's a classic technique that we did way back in the day. Remember, we put those people in concentration camps before, not the best optics. And when a president says it, unfortunately, this cult that follows this president believes it, and it's dangerous. So it's not only racist, but it's actively dangerous against human beings in this country right now.
Actively hurting people.
Yeah, we have actual verifiable data about an increase of hate crimes against people who appear to be of Asiatic descent. You know, whether you want to call them, you know, like Japanese, Chinese, Korean people, etc. You know, they look similar enough to one another to somebody who, say, is, you know, not from those areas, that people have created hate violence against anybody
if you
who
haven't
has
been
those
exposed,
ethnic characteristics.
Dragnaut Silvas actually pointed this out rather brilliantly, because he's been in the military, he's been exposed to these other cultures, and if you've been exposed to those cultures, then it becomes very easy to tell the difference between, say, somebody from China and somebody from Taiwan and somebody from Japan. But if you don't, then it's hard, and especially if you're talking to a group of people that are going to believe anything they're fucking told by this man.
Yeah, I have to take a quick survey. Does anyone mind if I call that particular virus COVID-19? Is that okay?
Ah, good one. That was brilliant, Richard.
Just wondering.
As long as you're not calling COVID-19, because you know what, the crows and the jays, they had nothing to do with this. I can promise you that. I can promise you.
Yeah. Let's see.
I enjoyed that greatly.
Non-oozable man. We're not gorillas. We're not. We're closely related, but we're actually not gorillas. We're both part of the same great apes. And what the hell is that person's name? Jacob, what his name was? He said that the president of the United States acted faster than most other countries. Yeah, Singapore and Japan and South Korea. Fuck, oh Italy. Australia. There's like 40 countries that would say, wait, no, he didn't.
He literally called it a democratic hoax twice.
Yeah. And then
wait a minute. How many countries are there? Because 40 ahead of us is...
He just found out yesterday there's 151 that were infected, by the way. Turns out there's more than 200, but still. But also, he didn't. One of the things I keep hearing, too, is he shut down travel to China and back and forth, but he actually didn't do that.
Okay, guys, you're expecting the president to count above 20. Come on, be realistic with your expectations.
That's why he said 14 was the first we could go with. But Americans could go back and forth to China. Did you know that? As long as they didn't stay there for 14 days and come back, and they didn't even require quarantine or check or anything like that. So nothing was stopped from going back and forth from China unless you were unable to show that you weren't from China. So if you're an American, you're perfectly fine. He didn't shut down shit from China.
Yeah, and not only did he fail miserably at the beginning, and we can talk about all the bullshit now, but not only did he do that, but like he literally ignored it, and then they were getting briefed on it, and these people were selling stocks. These people were just they were saving themselves. The Murdoch family was prepping for this shit as they were pushing that narrative that it's a hoax. I mean, these people knew the truth and lied to you, and you're fucking accepting it and justifying it. It's really disgusting.
Well, you know their infrastructure in the United States? It's the country that Ed lives in. I don't know why he's so interested in the United States, as he's probably looking around his own country going, social distancing, where the fuck is the hospital?
Well, Ed could be in Poland, like Shanny for Christ is in Korea. So I mean, we could.
That is true. He sure seems to know a lot about the United States.
Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting, though, about, like, on the subject of Korea, though, is Korea actually, because of their nationalized healthcare system and the fact that they responded very quickly, apart from the cases that were spread rapidly in that one particular megachurch, they were able to stem the infection quite effectively by taking measures very early. So did Vietnam, actually. Like,
Yeah.
Vietnam has been majorly able to control their outbreak. They have lower numbers than most of the, countries in that particular area.
Yeah, and they're very densely populated. Hong Kong as well. You look at South Korea. I remember, and I can Susan can tell you this because I've like mapped the chart of this whole thing. When the United States was catching up with South Korea, and they were in between 8,000 and 9,000, and the United States was like, not today, South Korea, also North Korea, we don't know. Zoomed right by them, and we're almost to 200,000 now. South Korea is still at 9,000.
America #1.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
number one.
boy.
So much winning. We're just winning. We're so much winning.
Just winning it, man.
We need.
Well, and for what it's worth, by the way, Trump himself actually stated that he started using the terms Chinese virus to create tensions between himself and China as a direct result from a tweet from a single Chinese diplomat that the U.S. created the virus. So he started doing that specifically to stoke, like, racial tensions. Like, that's what he wanted to do.
This would be so much fun, like if you were here talking to us instead of being a fucking coward. But don't let me start raging.
Yeah, he does those kind of things on purpose. By the way, it's the common deflection tactic of narcissists. He sees heat coming down on top of him, and so he creates something. Look over here. It's like being a magician. That's why whenever that happened, I was just like, don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It's not important. It's what he's doing on purpose.
Wait. Are you suggesting that Penn and Teller are not completely honest and upfront, bud? Because, I mean, I thought that maybe that I could
They
trust
do have a
them.
show called Bullshit, so
They
you
did,
know.
yeah.
I mean, they're both great
sorry.
atheists. I'm just gonna put.
Sorry,
that out
Rich,
there.
man. I'm sorry, dude. But
Wow.
I've said this a lot of times. It would be better for two things. One, that what we are seeing right now does not reach fruition. That would be the best thing. Let the conspiracy theorists say what the fuck they're going to say, because they will. But that would show that we actually did something.
Oh boy, will they ever, as we found out tonight, huh?
Yeah, they're going to drive by more hospitals and be like, look, because apparently doctors do their stuff in the parking lots. They see patients, the ICU patients in the lawn.
Actually, if you guys want to see that stuff, you can see lines wrapping twice around clinics. I can take pictures of COVID testing tents in my state where there's lines wrapping twice around the building, people waiting to get tested. That is a thing that is actually happening here. So if you want those photographs, I've got them.
I'm not closing the stream down. I'm going to end the fun with Mr. Ed Freeze. I'm going to give Tony, throw Tony a bone. Tony, please, just boot him. We've got plenty enough to talk about now. Boot his ass. Ed Freeze, I will unban you the next time I unban everybody. So just be patient. Come back and troll next time and be a little better at it, maybe.
Yeah.
You think you're a lot smarter than you actually are.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this person literally only knows argumentatum dictorum, and unfortunately, we're not making blood sacrifices to the dictionary. I know you want to make them to the market because you made those arguments earlier, but we're just not. We're not about making blood sacrifices here. I'm sorry. I know you have a pagan in the chat, but that's not what we're about here. So please, just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do give that honor to you, Tony, so feel free. Enjoy it as you do it. I will unban you, dude. I do it all the fucking time, so it'll happen.
Now, I'm going to say something that should not be very controversial, but it kind of is. Stop, Susan. In order for us to reach the best outcome of this situation, is for our government and those in Congress and in the White House to do a really good job. And we need to hope that happens. We need to hope that Donald Trump does a really good job at helping people.
Yeah, I want him to. I'm hoping he is listening to Tony, right?
Yeah, and instead of Mr. Pillow.
Well, and you want to know what's really stupid too is the whole, oh, well, we should let people go back to work. Like, we should let all the old people go back to work. Let's go ahead and examine that argument. Because actually, today, I think John Oliver did a fantastic job of saying one of the most concise debunks of that argument that I've ever seen presented. And that is, if you do let everybody else go back to work, guess what else fucks up an economy royally? Losing 2% of your fucking population, many of which are older people who may have, say, kind of like in our example earlier when I was asking, well, what about the surgeon versus the lay 19-year-old on the street who's more likely to recover? Those surgeons, those highly advanced people, those people are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Some of the most highly qualified individuals in this country are in these risk demographics. Many high-level experts in a bunch of different fields have pre-existing conditions. Your education does not determine what your likelihood for a health outcome is going to be. And as we have seen, COVID can kill perfectly healthy people. So, if you want to send everybody back to work and just let the virus run its course, what you're going to do, effectively, is take a shit on your cake and choke on it too, because you're going to lose a shitload of skilled workers. You're going to have a large percentage of the population out of work due to what they call mild symptoms. If what my husband was going through just now, you guys heard him throwing up. On I know for a fact that went through the microphone because you guys were reacting to it. That's part of what allowed me to hear it because I've got noise reducing headphones. You guys heard him throwing up, right? Like, he has a fever of 103 to 104 right now, and we can get it down to maybe 100 to 101. If that's what you call mild, if mild is that level of symptomology, like at home, then I'm afraid of what severe could potentially look like. And if that's mild, who the fuck do you think is going to work when they're throwing up like that, when they have a fever this bloody high, when they can't even walk more than 4 feet without coughing their fucking lungs out? If that's mild, and even if 80% of people are mild, that's 80% of your workforce potentially within a few weeks unable to work anyway.
Well, they're literally throwing their base to the wolves. So here is what the Republican Party and Donald Trump is showing you, that he does not care for you, the voter. He only cares for his donors, and he is throwing a large chunk of the Republican base, older people, to the fucking wolves to die. And a lot of them might listen to the guy. I mean, it's really scary, and it's really actually fucking stupid because that's his base. That's his base right there. And he doesn't care about his voters. He only cares about the donors pressuring him to open up the economy because they're losing money.
Well, and on top of it, though, what he doesn't understand and what the stockholders don't understand is that opening up the economy will still cause everyone to lose money.
Well, yeah, and we're looking at a second wave coming. I mean, all the demographics are, we need to shut down, and we need to shut down until it's over, and then we need to open it up back up, and you need to stimulate the economy until that happens. And you first do that by stimulating the workers, not the corporations. You stimulate the workers, you help the corporations, and then once the economy opens back up, you run another stimulus for the economy itself. To think that this is a one-time measure or that this is going to be done by the end of April, they're already pushing that goalpost because it was supposed to be Easter. They're going to get to the end of April and not going to be able to do it either unless they're going to throw their base to the fucking wolves. I mean,
yeah, it certainly is an odd conundrum. And Donald Trump doesn't care about his fucking donors either. He cares about himself, and he doesn't want himself to look bad. He just found an avenue to channel his hate that made it sound like it was policy. The thing here is, I keep hearing this too, is more people die of the flu. I'm working on creating like a little thread that I'm gonna put on Twitter, and if you know me, when I say a little thread, it's gonna be as many as Twitter allows me and then more. And it talks about what I see with this based on precedent. And the reason that that's not a good analogy is because we allowed the flu to become what it is today. Because it's no longer a pandemic because it's always here. It's seasonal, sure, but it's always here. The issue with this one is that it's more deadly, that it's more transmissible, and we don't want it to be the fucking flu. That's the reason. We don't want it to be that. So And
Well,
that's
and-
why I have this stuff put together.
And
I'm
not
gonna
only
enjoy it.
that, but with the flu and everything, again, I have a little sister who was actually like hospitalized with the flu. But corona, like COVID, is so much more deadly because it's more transmissible. We keep stressing that. I'll let Mr. Parker go, but I wanted to keep that point before I lost it. We're getting to meds kicking out portion, so I'm going to be a lot more impulsive, and I apologize.
It's fine. But I was gonna something on Twitter. I said I mentioned about how Trump originally was gonna have, like, he was planning to like rethink the idea of being closed off during Easter time, and I mentioned something about how that's gonna be favoring the Christians, and someone's like, "Oh, what's wrong with favoring the Christians?" And I'm like, "Well, that's showing a lot of support for his base, and none of that, it's going to end up killing people if people actually go out and hunt down Easter eggs, because God knows what's on those Easter eggs, but candy infected with coronavirus, just terrifying thought." And I'm like, we should be shut down for quite a while and not just have one day off because Christian base wants a day off to celebrate Jesus' death.
Yeah, and that's where that pressure was coming from. He was actually listening to the fucking religious leaders instead of the goddamn scientists.
Yeah, because scientists sound smarter than him. He can't have that. That's one of the reasons why you don't see Fauci on many of the networks and stuff anymore. And we predicted that, by the way.
Yeah. He literally has to do like individual interviews, and he might be in a press conference or two every once in a while. But it's really disturbing to see the cult mentality when it comes to this. This is very serious, and people need to take it seriously. This has never happened before. When it comes to the flu, the flu sucks, but every year we're developing more of an immunity to it. We have no immunity to this.
Well, and not only
no
that,
exposure to this, nothing. Nobody. I mean, it's already bad. We're already the worst country in the world, and we just started fucking testing.
Okay, but I can't stress hard enough, like, what makes this virus so bloody different. With the flu, if you're coughing, you can transmit it. With this, you can be asymptomatic, and talking can transmit it. The spit that comes out of your mouth when you talk can transmit it. They have found it in fecal matter as well. Like, it can infest the digestive tract. It can get into your body that way. If it's in your food, it can enter your body through your digestive tract and end up in your lungs that way, through mucous membranes and such. And the way that you die from this virus is novel. The way that you would die if you end up with a very, very severe version of it is, effectively, it infects so many of your lung cells that you start to break down that barrier between your, the inner part of your lungs and your actual, I want to call them alveoli, but I can't remember what they're called. The little air sacs. Huh? Alveoli, yes. The air sacs in your lungs. And what ultimately happens is, not only does that happen and you start to get pneumonia, but as your lungs are filling up with fluid, the virus will then attach to your immune cells, cause them to wig the fuck out, and then your own immune cells will continue to destroy more layers of those things, making the virus worse.
Well, and this conversation tonight has just been an example of how consuming this conversation is, because, we'll go to a topic and then we always come back to Corona. The troll in the chat didn't help, but like, we always come back to this because it's such a consuming issue right now. And the problem is that half the country, maybe less than half the country, but a significant portion of the country is going to follow the misinformation and believe it, and it's going to affect the rest of us that are actually trying to follow these guidelines, be isolated, protect our loved ones. It's very dangerous, and it's not a time to allow people really to justify it or excuse it. You need to understand the truth, because this shit is dangerous. It's affecting my kid. We can't leave our house because she might die. It's that fucking serious. So it's so important. I apologize for those that do get a bit traumatized by the conversation because it's very stressful, but it's very consuming. We went from climate change to corona to fine tuning to corona to capitalism to corona. I mean, it's just a consuming conversation right now.
Well, and it touches on every area of this, but like Tony brought up the cytokine cascade thing, like that is effectively what happens. You drown in your own blood and bodily fluids. If you are a severe case, that dies. If you're on a respirator, you are drowning in your own blood and bodily fluids. There is not another virus that does it to this level.
I've literally had to come to the conclusion that there's a
not
very
one
good
that's this
chance
spreadable.
that I will watch my daughter go through that, or she will watch me go through it. And we all need to come to that conclusion because, I mean, this is such a serious thing that we're trying to prevent that as much as possible. You know, like, and if I'm forced to have to go back to work because of capitalism, then I'm forced to put my daughter's life in jeopardy at this point.
Yeah, and you're right. Well, like I think it's important that we look at we're going to watch and see where that the transmission rate, where the R rate actually is, because it's gone up and down quite a bit over the course of the past few weeks.
But the fact that it can be transmitted when you have absolutely zero symptoms, when you're a completely asymptomatic case, that is unique for coronavirus.
Yes, it is, at least as far as we know.
And it's the big thing that makes it more dangerous than the flu, because at-risk people can get it from people that are not otherwise showing any sort of symptoms. If you're coughing your face off, then an at-risk person can avoid you. That's how you don't get the flu. If you're coughing your face off, if you're not coughing your face off and you're just talking to an at-risk person, you can't avoid that. Not without social distancing.
Yeah, not at all. I can say that last night I got limited on Twitter again last night. God.
See, that's why I stay off Twitter. If I actually got on Twitter, I'd be in all these troubles.
Well, I got what's funny is getting my Twitter limited. I don't think it actually does anything because I can still tweet and people can still see them. And because I was, and by the way, thank you Jake from Hannah and Jake for this, dick. There's these QAnon fucks that go around and they're recording the outside of hospitals, which I guess they're giving more footage to Google Maps. I don't know. And I saw one guy, and they're like, this isn't real or whatever. And one guy who had QAnon shit all over his profile was like, no, guys, this is real. This person that I know has it. This person died. And they were like, oh yeah, show us the death certificate. And he's like, are you serious?
Gross.
And so I responded, I was like, yeah, dude, you can't be in the cult if you say even one thing.
Yeah.
And of course, there are people that were standing, including here in Portland, outside the hospital. I stood there for an hour. So I actually sent him a little message. I mentioned him again today. And I was like, hey, man, I'll meet you tomorrow. We'll go inside and we'll talk to people. He never responded to me. And then other people said, oh, I'm not going to go inside. And that's when I got limited because I was like, go ahead and do it, bitch. Go inside. Don't be alone.
And Kennedy actually brings up a really good point. She says that if she has to get tested, she probably wouldn't qualify or would be told no. She's just staying home. Like, that's another big thing, is there's a number of people who say catch it from community spread, but maybe don't develop all of the symptoms, or they're asymptomatic, like we mentioned before, so they don't even know that they're sick and they have no way to go get tested. We don't know how many people have it. We don't know how many people have it and get over it. We don't know how many people have it and it's a mild case. The only people that we know have it are cases that know that they were exposed, like my husband. My husband had 2 people at his workplace that were reported to have had it, and his workplace was actually conducting tests on people who worked closely in those areas prior to him leaving work for the stay-at-home order. Like, he was able to get access to testing because he knew he was exposed to 2 confirmed cases. But if you just so happen to catch it from community spread, if you, say, came into contact with one of the people while they were in the incubation period and you caught it, and you have those symptoms, there's still a chance that even if you have every single major symptom, that you might not get sent in for testing just because you got it from community spread. We don't actually know how transmissible it is. We know there's way more cases than are confirmed in the media. We also know that there may be more deaths than are confirmed in the media, because it has to be somebody who tested positive who dies of respiratory failure in a hospital to be counted generally.
Yeah. Yeah, I was mentioning that the other day. How many people died just because they had, pneumonia, uh, which you can get from numerous infections. And are you okay, love?
I'm good. I just laid down on a dog.
Yeah, and if you've had pneumonia at any point in your life, you're more susceptible to develop pneumonia. I've had it. I had it when I was a child, and that was the first thing they told me. And well, now that you've had it, it's possible you'll get it again.
Yeah. Some of the good news that I've seen though from this is I believe it's the ITG genetic marker from that we usually see from some sort of immunity, and that apparently has it doesn't exist the antigen doesn't exist in the actual genetic code of the SARS virus, but it does. We've seen it in actual from doctors that have had.
Okay.
So.
Sorry, I have to respond to something. Pop that shit up from Jacob Current. All right, motherfucker, you want...
Don't let them trigger you too much, Allie.
Yeah.
You all heard my fucking husband throwing up right there. He has a fever of 104. That is, under normal conditions, a fever that should get you managed by a hospital.
Yeah.
He has it.
The statement, you guys are just freaking each other out, is no, dude. I've been freaked out since March 15th when my governor issued an order that closed my work. I've been freaked out since that moment. I spoke about it openly that moment when I streamed freaking the fuck out.
Yeah,
also, I know somebody whose mother died choking on her own blood and lung fluids. I know somebody else whose grandmother is so delirious with fever she cannot recognize her own fucking family. Don't you tell me that we're just freaking each other out. I'm in the state that is the epicenter of the fucking American outbreak.
Don't let the trolls get to you too much, because that's what
this
they
is
want.
one thing that keeps pissing me off, and it's a thing that needs to be reiterated over and over. This shit is real. My mother is a fucking funeral director. There are bodies piling up in some places. Hers is one of them.
There's a very good chance that Jacob Current understands that fully, and they're just trolling. There's a very good chance that Jacob Current believes in the things they're saying and should come on the stream in the future, because eventually we're going to have to shut this thing down. We've been going for a while. In the future, and come in and back up your claims and tell us why we're just freaking out and why we shouldn't worry and why that orange man of a president in the White House is so right. He's just so right.
Yeah, he was right about everything.
I'm sorry for my loss of temper. It's just I've been dealing with this bullshit all fucking day, and to be honest, like, as somebody who is literally watching one of their loved ones be sicker than they've ever seen, it really infuriates me.
I find it entertaining, Ellie, because I started doing this about 3 years ago publicly on YouTube. So like when I first started getting the trolls, it affected me the same way. So I'm just seeing you go through the process that I went through. You'll get used to it. You'll grow a really thick skin. Trust me.
Yeah, Shay, I agree with you. By the way, I said that to myself like 30 or 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't even think that it's a matter of getting a thick or thin skin. I think it's the fact that this is a pressing thing that is literally affecting me at this moment. So I think I'm being a little more sensitive than I normally would be.
Not only that, but like trolls will use sensitive matters to press their troll buttons. I mean, it works, and that's why I say like a lot of trolls end up usually going to like using my daughter, because they know that is the one thing that'll really get to me, and I'll fucking respond, and usually quite viciously. That'll actually reflect bad on myself if too many people look at it.
Yeah, they people find out that because I'm bald or I have a beard or whatever, I'm skinny, whatever, and I'm like so, but then they bring up like they find out that Susan's diabetic. And they start using that.
Yeah,
and
I've had people tell me that I deserve to die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, shit. My own dad pretty much insinuated that my daughter got diabetes because I'm an atheist, and if I was just a believer in God, my life would be so much better, and everybody else's life would be better around me.
Can we talk about the logic behind that?
I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to trash my dad, but I am a little pissed off at him.
Okay, Jacob claims that we're misinterpreting him. Jacob, would you like to explain what you meant then? Because if I misinterpreted you because I'm being oversensitive from other fights, then I'm perfectly willing to cede that.
Oh, they broke it, huh?
Yeah.
That sucks.
But, you know, in all seriousness, I have been dealing with people who were saying that all day. So that reaction was for them, and more so than you, even, I think. You can ask Nathaniel about that. I ended up asking him for help with one of them.
Oh, yeah, and I'm... Don't at me on Twitter.
No, Jacob Current meant that part. What he was talking about that he didn't mean was something from a prior conversation with Tony. He meant the part that offended you. I'm just kidding. I'm trolling him back.
Oh, you shouldn't say I'm just kidding. That's the thing, Richard. You gotta.
Like, what the heck?
I'm not a very good troll. I just don't know how to do these things.
You're too honest.
You're a fantastic wordsmith at times, though. Like you've had some brilliant puns on stream.
Thank you. You're too kind.
I appreciate them greatly.
I think that, in fact,
You almost broke Susan again.
Could you not?
It'll repair itself. You'll be fine, boss.
Actually, oh yeah, all we have to do is have sex. It's not
It's
a big
okay.
Deal. The past few weeks, I've been up in Oregon by myself and had all this going on. And Susan, I don't know. We'd have to have like a whole video to explain everything that has and is continuing to happen just with our. It's not like a fluid situation with what's going on, but you'll notice we're not in a chair or anything. We're sitting on the floor.
My back hurts right now.
Yeah, and so everything is coming here, or hopefully. And so I had been getting more and more stressed out, but not realizing it because I was still working and wondering if everything's going to work out. Like, what kind of maintenance do we need on the cars now? What about medicine? Am I going to have to go to Washington, which apparently is like 5 miles away, every month to get new medicine because Oregon, apparently opioid crisis here. Good job, Oregon. God. And I really became like a really stressed out and not very nice person.
He was very stressed out.
Yeah, and
can confirm.
And I didn't realize it until people actually came to me in DMs and were like, "Hey, man, are you okay?" So, and that's something that this can do to us through all of it, especially the things that we go through. And I said some really mean things and things that I would not. No, not to you.
For the record, not to me.
No, I would not. I beat myself up.
If it helps you at all, Nate, I want you to know that with that wall behind you and this particular camera angle and with those particular headphones, it looks like you have puppy ears on your bald head. If that makes you feel better.
It does.
Totally does.
Yeah.
I just want to make you feel better about...
Somebody please take a screenshot of this right now. I really, really want to put it as my background on my phone.
Damn it, Richard. You pointed it out and now I can't not see it.
You know, it actually, I can't not see it either. Also, Jacob says he was specifically pointing out that for the last 45 minutes we've been talking about all the crazy shit the virus does and that we're causing ourselves to freak out more because we're focusing on the topic.
Well, I think, and this is something that I mentioned to you and I were talking about in our conversation earlier, where actually talking about it with somebody and expressing the feeling and then finding that other people share the same shit. Like, we have the same stress. We have the exact same, it's not the exact same circumstance, but we are
it's a shared
all
stress.
Yeah, and every single one of us in one way or another is affected by this. Today I told Susan for the first time, I've been worried about it for a week. Today I told Susan I'm worried about getting furloughed. And so talking about it, like, and really, and also dispelling myths and stuff like that, it really helps a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and getting to
feel actually
stress
pretty
the
comfortable
importance
right now.
of it, and getting to stress the importance of it is helping me because, again, I've been dealing with trolls all fucking day on Twitter, on Facebook, on a bunch of different places. You know, I even had a family member try to tell me that, I was overreacting to the fact that my husband has a between 103 and 104 fever when it was my father-in-law, who is a registered EMT, who was like, you need to call the ER right now. That could be deadly. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying to just treat it at home until he was the one who told me that. So talking about this is actually helping a lot because I've had to be really strong for my family, honestly. We have a high-risk person here who has diabetes and liver failure. I have 2 autoimmune conditions. Like, there's a very high chance that all of us are going to get it, and there's a very high chance that at least 1 or 2 of us may end up in the hospital because we have so many people here with multiple risk factors. That is a very real thing, and if talking about it does actually help cope. It really does. I know that that's very personal, but it's something that I'm literally living through.
It's also very human.
Yeah.
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 Like
it's
I'm literally like so much more relaxed now than I was heading into the debate earlier. Because you get tensed up for a debate, you do get stressed out for a debate. You know, you want to perform well. You want to make sure your arguments are clear and crisp, and you're responding to your opponent's arguments. There's a lot of stress involved in that. There's no stress involved in sitting here relaying, issues that we're going through on a daily basis. And I think that once again, like the conversation itself just proves just how vital the conversation is. People bring it up in the chat. We keep bringing it up. It's what we're thinking about right now. As much as I try to get away from it, and I do with edited content, you just can't get away with it when you got a group of people living the same experience, going through the same exact shit, worried about the same exact shit. The chat's worried about the same exact shit. It's going to keep coming up. And until this is over, unfortunately, it's probably going to continue.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And now I can tell you every single time that I've had a debate that people were actually going to watch, I have always been well prepared.
And stressed out.
And 0 times did I think I was even close to well prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And she is the one that, because I was laying in bed and I had this was before my debate with Dean, right? And you were going to be gone.
The first one.
And I had all these books in the bed, and I was like, "Okay, do I have enough books? Look, I got this one, and I'm going. I have this
He had
apologetics book."
so much shit checked out from the library that I got on Amazon, and I'm just still like.
And the thing is when you prepare like that, you use less than a quarter of it, right? Like that's what happened with my debate with Sigurd on Modern Day Debate. Is we prepped for like 5 or 6 days, me and Ocean and Surus, and then we used less than 1/10 of it.
Yeah. And then, she said, "You've got this.
Yeah.
You're fine." And I was like, "All right." And turns out, yeah, I was fine.
Yeah.
And then I was fine the next time. And then, yeah.
That helped me. Like just being able to talk to Allie. We talked like the hour before going into the debate, and I was able to go through my arguments with her. This is my thinking. This is what I want to do. This is my strategy. She listened to those arguments, and it really made me feel better going into it because, I knew I had spent a lot of time preparing for the debate, but that stress, it does get to you. And especially, the one time that I really didn't prepare for the debate, I just went into it to be raging atheist, is the one time that I really fucked up a debate experience. And that would be with Matt Power. I learn my lessons when I make mistakes. So, I knew that I was ready. But you have that internal voice like, this really isn't your topic. This isn't something that you normally talk about. This isn't something you normally debate. This guy, obviously, this is his issue because it's the only one he ever fucking talks about. So like you have that trepidation, and then getting that validation from somebody else, that goes a long way in easing those fears and allows you to walk into it with your head up, knowing that, hey, I'm pretty confident right now.
Well, and plus we also got to bounce your ideas back and forth a little bit. I went and studied both the guy's rhetorical strategy and a bunch of different, various forms of rhetoric for specifically the fine-tuning arguments and the kinds of arguments that he's used in the past. And so I brought up a bunch of objections that you might run into, and you had to go through to see which of your sections may be able to address them. And for a few of them, we found holes that we then patched up. So, that was also a very useful way, but that would not have happened if you hadn't had that conversation.
Now I have a whole new day to add to those arguments. So from not using 60%, I'll probably not use 80% by the time it's all said and done, because I'm just going to keep accumulating data and having those. I think I'll have the arguments ready to just shoot now instead of I'm looking at what I wrote down here.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we had a really good time. I also had an excuse to go call my buddy who works over at SpaceX, so that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a physicist giving you some, input on a debate about physics is a good thing.
Oh yeah. It also helps, right? It also helps, especially in my case, because most of the debates that I do have to do with the historicity of the New Testament, very specifically the life of Jesus. The birth and the resurrection of Jesus and stuff.
The debate I really want to get into, Nathaniel. That's what I'm researching behind the scenes, honestly.
I'm already ready to go right now, bud. Start a show right now.
Richard, you want to debate me on
Absolutely, love to.
Ooh, that would be good. That would be different. I would definitely watch that. That would be awesome.
Do you take the Lucan account to be accurate?
Oh, there's a formal debate where you want informed ahead of time. I see how it is. Yeah, just write your own rules. Just write the rules as you go, Nate. That's going to work out real good for you.
I mean, it's what I do. What's funny is that Dean Meadows he was like trying to get things out of me. Remember that? And he was like trying to he was like, well, what are some of the things you think that you're going to talk about? We'll go from there. I'm like, no.
Yeah, so it was a phone call. It was like after one of my orthopedist appointments, after I broke my ankle last year. And he calls while we're on the way, and he's just all like, hey, so what do you think about if we like just give each other one of our topics each?
Or maybe the top 3 or 5.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying for. And I'm just like,
hey, I got good news for you guys. Susan, I get good news for you. Nate, I get good news for you. You can't prepare for what I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
I can
don't bother.
So excited.
But here's the thing. The reason that Dean was doing that, and we realized this immediately, was because there are no new arguments.
Exactly.
At least, Richard, I know you're different, but from the apologetic evangelical type of worldview, there aren't any. There's just different ways to say them. And so, Knock,
you're exactly right.
That's for you tomorrow, too. There are no new arguments for intelligent design. They're just different ways to say them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into my strategy, but I think I've got a really good strategy going into this thing. Yeah. And it's along those lines.
I completely agree with Knock. His opponent wants to frame the debate a certain way. Knock's not going to let that happen.
Nice. Yeah.
Hey, Knock, what time's that show going to be, man? I don't want to miss that.
We're not quite sure yet. Probably 9 o'clock again, but he said it could be like during the day. It's really going to depend on Praise or Converse Contender, whoever ends up moderating it. James, his internet signal is really, really weak. He's trying to fix the problem, but tomorrow he's going to let us know, but it'll be tomorrow sometime.
If he needs a gigabit internet source, I'm more than happy to help him host at the very least this debate for the short term. If he gives me the stuff that I need in order to get it started, legitimately, that is a thing that I'm capable of because I have a gigabit connection in a high tech area.
Yeah, I'll run it by him if we need to, but I mean, it should happen tomorrow at some point. As soon as I know the time, I promise I will let everybody know.
Oh no, we can see through Richard.
Yeah, I was like, Richard, I think that you're wearing a tie the same color as your background.
That is
the best
effect ever.
It's like Richard has a hole in his chest.
Yeah, he's holy.
I made a green screen tie. I can sew.
I mean, at one point, it actually looked like your heart.
Oh, how do I make that happen again?
Now I'm curious. What is on your shirt, Richard?
Oh, this. That's. Let me see if I can remember how to say it. It's in Russian.
Yeah,
it's Dom Drevnego Utsa, or House of Ancient Father. It's Heaven's Arrival. You like it?
Huh.
That's interesting.
I've never.
Apparently, his planets are green screen planets, also.
A little bit.
Well, the emerald light around the throne of God, which you'll notice this is also with the 3 stripes. This is also in Hinduism. But anyway.
I thought it was Adidas. My bad.
So you said that you were going to present an argument that Nathaniel was unprepared for. What is your argument, Richard?
He just
you said
gave
let's
you
go
a
right
little
here.
bit of it. He just gave you a little bit of it. With Richard, there's always surprises with every single conversation. Richard, I definitely want to come on.
Here's the first surprise. I actually read the Bible. Channel. There's the first surprise. Yeah, shoot, man. Let's set something up whenever you got a free minute, man. You let me know, and I'll schedule everything around you, Knock.
Dude, I have unlimited.
So are you arguing from a positive or a negative position, Richard? Like, which position are you taking?
Again, this is not a formal debate where I'm informing Nate ahead of time of what I'm going to say. That's not the plan here, even with friends' help.
I will say
if
that
it's a negative position, then you guys can just agree.
No, we're not going to agree. No.
If you haven't seen Richard's debate with Neffy, it's up again now, right, Richard? It's pretty good. I've watched it.
Yeah.
So do you want James to moderate it, or would you like me to? Richard, it's up to you guys.
I like Susan as a mod.
Oh.
I've never modded anything in my life.
It'll be fun.
Come in and be like,
Oh yeah, look, Susan, you have solid logic. Just like I would have trusted Leah Kai to do the same thing, but I want somebody that's completely on Nate's side.
Well, the thing is I would just moderate fairly. Like, I'd be a completely neutral mod. That's my entire job. It's just to make sure you all don't talk out over
That's too much favor for me. I can't stand that kind of handicap on. That's just, it's not okay.
I am just getting run over here.
I got to spot him at least 10 points or something here.
Yeah,
the epic shit always gets set up here. Like, we still got to do this G-Man alley debate.
Yeah, that is the thing. He hasn't even come back since then to have any sort of setup.
Since I even got up in his chat and was like, "Hey man, let's set up that debate," and he didn't respond. I don't think he wants anything to do with you.
G-Man is going to debate you.
I think he's afraid of me.
Really?
G-Man challenged me to a debate on this channel because he found out that I did not agree with him on a bunch of different things. He wanted to debate me on whether or not, what was it? Whether or not there's objective morality, was that it? No, it was free will.
Free
he wanted
will.
to debate
Does
me
free
on the
will
concept of
exist?
free will. Me, of course, I took the negative position.
I'm starting to tend toward considering free won't rather than free will. No, it's not a joke. It sounds funny, but it's not a joke. Because it seems to me that in my experience, I have a series that I select from. So what I'm really doing is I won't do A, B, and C, so therefore I choose D.
Well, I think the problem here with choice, if you want to have this discussion here, as far as my position, the big problem that I have with that is that, number one, there's research that suggests that the parts of the brain that are going to perform an action fire before the part of the brain that would signify a decision in your the internal narrator, so to speak, the voice that you recognize as you. The parts of the brain that are going to do an action fire before the part of the brain that is the internal narrator that informs you of that action. So decisions are made without making decisions, if that makes sense. This idea of I will or I won't, the you that does that is not the you that makes that choice, if there is even a choice. But also, even the decisions that are put in front of you are entirely predetermined by every single thing that has ever come before, none of which you chose. You did not choose where you were born. You did not choose the particular conditions under which the Big Bang supplied our universe. You didn't choose the fact that this star cluster just so happened to turn into the particular planets that gave rise to life, etc., etc.
Have we run tests on that on non-binary choice?
What do you mean?
Okay, usually these tests are like choose A, B.
No, what the test was it was about whether or not, if a person has, quote, made a decision to do something regardless.
Yeah.
When the brain fires, what parts of the brain fire?
That's AB. That's AB. I think that's okay. When you have a binary like that, you're not freely choosing anything. So what's the point? Then it does come down to exactly what you just described, saying, oh, well, that's a matter of society and year you were born and whether or not you ate fruit salad last week. I get it, but these tests should not be binary tests, in my opinion. I think that's not thorough.
So I have a question for you, I guess. Do you believe that somebody can make a decision without access to information, do you believe that somebody can choose something without ever having access to the fact that they have that choice?
By your own definition, that's an impossibility from what I can discern.
Well, that's kind of the point that I was making.
Yeah, but you're writing the definition to fit your point.
Not really. What I'm saying is, if you do not have access to a particular, say, set of circumstances or information,
Sure.
It's not possible to make a choice based off of those circumstances or information because you cannot choose what you have access to.
Right.
Then, like we were talking about earlier with that same concept of the people with the Teflon, they wouldn't have, if they didn't have access to information on how dangerous it was, then
Sure.
they couldn't have known to not use it.
Or most people, you can't apply for 60,000 college grants all listed on one CD that will only cost you $10, which is available through the U.S. government. Has 60,000 different grants for college on it. Yeah.
That's that guy with
But you have to know it's there, right? Yeah, I got to know it exists.
So the problem here then is that you also, would you say that your prior experiences inform your beliefs? Like the experiences that you have had in your life, would you say that they inform your beliefs and the choices that you make?
Not completely. I would say that's a part of it. That's probably a big part of it, I think, but not completely.
Is there anything that you can say definitively has not been informed by your experiences? And experiences includes the experience of reading a text, learning a bit of information, having a conversation, anything like that. Any information counts as an experience in this scenario.
Sure. If I love you and you say that I'm wrong about something, I might take your word for it. That has nothing to do with my experience, but just how I feel about you.
Well, that actually does have to do with your experience.
No, you referenced learning and my own personal experience. What I just said was, if I trust someone enough, I'm willing to believe them over me if I trust them enough.
Okay, so what informs that trust?
I don't know, maybe I think the person's hot or really well educated and smarter than me. Could be a lot of things.
So
But would you not say that experience with that person, whether it's their appearance or your conversations with them, would you not say that is itself a form of experience? That trust is experience.
Sure, it's just not based in any kind of reality.
Okay, but whether it's reality or not, it is still your experience. Reality and experience, like you're talking about the difference between objective facts and narrative. As far as experience goes, objective facts and narrative are identical to the human brain.
All right, very interesting conversation.
Gonna have to work on that. I don't know.
Very interesting conversation. Don't stop. We got 15 minutes though until we start wrapping up. We are at the 3.5 hour mark.
Brian Stevens, Beto O'Rourke.
So in terms of when you're talking about objective facts and narrative, right? Like an objective fact is you got your foot stepped on. A narrative about that might be the person deliberately stomped on your foot. A narrative about that might also be that it was an accident. How you feel is determined on the narrative you adopt. However, the objective fact was your foot got stepped on.
Fair enough.
The problem is, though, that your narrative becomes a part of your experience as soon as you adopt it. So whether your trust of this person is based in objective facts or not, it is still a part of your experience.
Isn't that why we write things down and compare our experience with others around us, is to defeat that very problem?
Well, the problem is, though, is if you write those things down and you compare them, that is still then that comparison becomes a part of your experience. You still can only make decisions and respond based off of that experience. You have to experience the writing down and the comparing in order to add that to your decision-making pool.
If I write something down, is it going to change because I lose my memory of what I wrote down?
What do you mean?
I mean, it can't.
Your narrative, however, about it may change.
Yes, I know, but if I write it down and I look back later and I compare my memory of what it is compared to the actual what it is, now I can say whether or not I'm accurate.
Okay, but the accuracy is not what I'm talking about. When the point of this discussion was talking about whether or not all of our decisions and beliefs are informed by experience. Your experience, whether that of writing it down and comparing it later or your memory of it, regardless, that is still a form of experience that then becomes the basis for future decisions. You can only make decisions based off of that experience, whether that experience is information, feelings, narrative, etc. That is the only decision-making capacity that humans have.
Well,
as far as
if what you just said is true, then I can't change my mind right now based on your definitions and explanation. But the fact of the matter is I can, based on what you're describing to me now. I can definitely change what I believe is true. Go ahead, Nate.
Real quick. Beto can't be as bad as Pete Buttigieg because he at least had 2% of the black vote. So go ahead.
Well, Pete had
Pete had
so. Coming back to
I'm in the comments. Leave me alone.
I didn't say that you could not. The thing is, though, this argument that you just heard is now a part of your experience that can then go into computing that, that whatever is the outcome. However, all of your prior experiences that have led up to this point have created the conditions under which you will quote decide, and I'm going to put quotes around that, to believe this or not. This is a discussion about whether or not you can choose what you believe. I would argue you can't choose what you believe because what evidence will be compelling to you will vary entirely on your personal human experience.
But isn't it also true that it's our personal experience of the past that decides what we do and don't investigate, and you can find a convincing argument for almost anything. In other words, you can come to believe whatever you want to believe.
Well, technically, our experience of the past will determine what we're compelled to investigate. However, you use an interesting word there, compelled. Do you feel like you actually choose what you investigate, or is it something that you can't explain?
Well, I think the only way for me to be honest about those sorts of things is investigate that which I do and that which I do not believe, and see which one's actually more believable.
Okay, but again, the fact that you even were able to have the inspiration to investigate something was still predicated on the fact that you had experience with that thing existing or not in the first place. And
Yes,
all of the things
that's
that
true.
led up to that current moment. So are you making a decision, or is it ultimately, like, even the things that you take interest in, are they not ultimately the result of the cumulative total of all of the things that came before that exact moment when you perceived yourself to have made a choice?
I am, therefore I think. Something like that. I've heard that somewhere. I'm gonna let Knock wrap this up. Allie, I think I'm not educated enough to have this conversation actually, and I'm starting to become curious as to whether or not I'm just missing the ramifications, implications of what you're saying more than what you're actually saying.
Well, apologies if you felt like, I hope that I didn't come off as aggressive or anything. Like, this is just a thing
I'm
that I'm
going
very
to go and
passionate
crawl
about.
into a corner and cry right now. Immediately, as soon as I'm off the air. No, it's fine.
I
It's
think
absolutely.
we've seen the beginning of a rivalry over the last couple times. Yeah, I mean, I think what Ali's saying is, so we were talking about free will. So if there's actually actions that you aren't deciding that you're doing, then the concept of free will becomes a debatable concept at the very least.
Right.
I know when it comes to free will, like I personally despise like when people bring up free will, say for like the problem of evil. And I get it on Facebook. I get it in the comment sections for my video on it. Because to me, that's just granting me that I'm right, that you're actually giving up one of the O qualities. You're giving up the omnibenevolence because God doesn't need the desire to conquer evil if we have the choice of
Not
free
choosing
will.
it. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. The big problem for me, actually, in all of this is that it's like discounting a third of it right off the bat and saying you can't use that part. Because for me personally, I think a lot of my decision making is based in information from outside of self, not people on the planet. So for that reason alone, and that's assigned no value, you know.
Well, I mean, I would
people's
say that would
I'm
be
sorry.
assigned. I would say that would be assigned an equal value with any other experience in terms of those sorts of decision making. I actually do place a premium value on personal experiences with the divine. I'm a pagan, remember?
Actually,
So,
I forgot
I'm not
that for just a
discounting
moment.
that.
You're right. I did forget that.
So
Yeah.
I would say that would still be as much a part of the experience that drives your future behavior as any other form of information that you have consumed.
But then don't you have to more agree that this is not a complete argument?
No, I don't, because the fact that you had an experience with the divine does not automatically grant you free will. It simply adds that to the experiences that then shape what you become and what your future actions are going to be.
Gonna have to spend time on it. I'm sorry. I just
So,
have to drop
like,
out.
again,
I think that's completely fair, though. But no, go ahead.
So I
Allie, we'll
didn't
finish
mean
up.
to cut you off there. I just
No,
wanted
you
to make
didn't.
sure that you remembered that particular fact about me. I'm not going to discount that information. I just don't think that it debunks my argument.
I'm gonna have to spend time on this that I have not spent. I'm 8 years old. You just
That's
have to live with
perfectly
that.
fine.
I think we're eventually leading up to a Richard Madsen, Aaliyah Kai. No,
I think it could be a really good
holds
conversation.
Blood sport match of a debate.
She is not, and I am not the dumpster fire type.
If I'm the moderator, I will make it so.
Okay, I decline you as moderator. That was easy. Next problem.
Yeah, you never want me as the fucking moderator. I mean,
I love you,
do
brother.
that freely.
If Nock is the moderator, there is no moderator.
That's not true. Completely.
Oh no, that's pretty much true.
Anyway, it was a blast. Peace and respect to you all, and Mr. Parker as well, who didn't say very much but was not forgotten. So
Yeah.
you guys have a great night. Thanks for letting me.
Have a good night, Richard.
Have a good night, Richard. Thank you for the conversation.
You're fun, you know.
Yeah, we should really wrap up. I should have gave him a chance to like plug his channel. If you guys aren't subscribed to Richard Mattson, he does have really good conversations. I'm gonna go over on his channel and have a conversation with him because he always comes on mine. And now I have plenty of time, so I'm trying to make that a thing. Like I'm just like accepting invitations at this point. I totally went on a Facebook podcast the other day I never heard about. Ended up being a really good conversation until Facebook, went crazy because of everybody being on Facebook. So yeah, if you want to have a conversation with me, I'm down to come to your channel. You can come on my channel. Blah 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 blah. Ali will let everybody plug their shit and we'll get out of here. Man, we haven't streamed this long in quite a while.
All right. So Nathaniel and Susan, I guess.
I like how he points at me.
Yeah.
So are we bringing the show back this week?
Yeah, we're supposed to.
Supposed to being the operative word.
Like 5:30 or something, huh?
I don't know.
5:30.
We'll see. So we have a show, Divine Disbelief. Ideally, it's going to be on this week. We'll see. We are not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Fluid.
You can follow me on Twitter on Motel Cowboy, the Susan Turpin, aka Skeptits, which I'm going to fully embrace that title now. Skeptits, I like
You
it.
should. I agree.
So what is your guys' show usually cover? Like, what does it look like for the viewers who have the unfortunate problem of not having been exposed to you guys before?
So we usually do news. We do the headlines sort of at the top of the show. We'll do a deep dive. We'll alternate between specific subjects. I've done mine on Paula White, who is fruit back. Anyway.
She's something else.
And other one I did was on the Christian music industry.
Yeah.
While he does the serious stuff, like the theological sort of related stuff, I do the more like the pop culture sort of related stuff having to do with.
And I heard a rumor somewhere that Nathaniel likes to do that while cleaning fossils. Is that right?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yeah, that is
What he would do a lot of times on Periscope he would have the he'd have it focused on the fossil he was cleaning, and he would be sitting there like getting into religious debates with people, and I'm just all like, I can't even like walk and chew gum at the same time. How are you managing to do this? Like, I'm so confused. And then we'll do like channel recommendations and book recommendations.
We have book recommendations, and we haven't had anybody on the show as a guest in a while, simply because we're trying to figure out where we put them in. We're trying to really bring it down to about an hour.
Yeah.
And when I get into like the infancy gospel of James and Thomas, and the gospel of Peter and the apocalypse of Peter, you're talking about an hour and a half altogether. Along with, we have to look at we have to figure which news articles we're going to talk about, how long we're going to talk about them and stuff. So. But really, we find that secular news and opinion, while like Hamet stuff is awesome on the Friendly Atheist, there's a couple of things. It's really not out there very much for people to have it in like this type of format where they can listen to it. And so we do that, and yeah, the deep dive thing is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the book recommendations too. It really kind of forces us in a way to read more stuff, and stuff that we may not have read before.
Yeah.
And that's on Divine Disbelief. So
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about doing something similar. I don't know if there's still if they're still looking at it, but there was a potential chance for me to do a like atheist style book club type thing where we were going to start with potentially, I think it was something like Not Under God. It was a book about the way that the U.S. was not originally a Christian nation.
Yeah, that book's right over there.
It's
called the Founding Myth.
Founding Myth.
Founding Myth. Yes, that's what we were going to start with. But we were going to go through some books that should be an essential reading on every atheist bookshelf, and most polytheists for that matter, because a lot of us have to deal with the same shit.
Yeah.
The same bullshit arguments. We're fighting against the same hegemony, right? Like everybody here agrees that.
Same Christian.
I want to be part of your book club.
Yeah, Andrew Seidel is fantastic. So you can usually.
Well, the person who was originally going to help me with it hasn't responded to me in over 3 months, so I'd say it's probably pretty open.
Well,
how long do you have to read the books? Because I have like a few seconds every day.
Well, I would say that we were originally talking about doing it either chapter by chapter, or we were going to do it like, say a third of the book at a time to kind of talk about the main passages and things, sort of do a summary type thing. So we'd probably take at least a couple of weeks to read through it and underline things, kind of like the Hannah and Jake series that they did for 12 Rules for Life, kind of a style like that, but for atheist sort of literature. And, I would argue even philosophical literature we were talking about potentially doing a little bit to kind of give people a grounding in these various arguments and where they come from and, facts behind things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to add Ancestor's Tale to the list because it's one of my favorite books on evolutionary biology.
Yeah. I would. I make a lot of mythicists very mad when I say that Richard Carrier is wrong about like everything. So.
Which is exactly why I don't get into debates about mythicism.
Well, people get shocked when I say I'm a fan of Dawkins, and then I just remind them that God Delusion is not my favorite book from him. My favorite book is The Ancestor's Tale because it's fucking brilliant.
I'm like a mythicist, but I don't admit to having any evidence for it. I just think that the Bible's bullshit and that zombies don't exist.
That's completely fair.
Yeah, I'm of the type, like, I'm not like a hardline mythicist. Like, I cannot get into a debate about it with somebody. I
don't know.
I will be the first person
We
to
do
admit
not
that.
talk about it.
We do not talk about it at all because he is not a mythicist.
No,
I'm just all like,
I'm not.
I don't think the Jesus of the Bible existed, but I don't know entirely. I can't debate you on it.
I could actually probably debate that with most any atheist.
Yeah, he probably could.
So, Nathaniel, if you would actually like to do this as a collaborative thing, maybe mirrored on both channels, I would love to do something like that with you. That would be amazing.
I like it.
Wait, would you want to debate on that?
No, I was saying the book club thing.
Oh, I was like, it didn't seem like something we debate, but by the way, I agree with Brian in the chat. He shouldn't use Bayesian theorem. Just send me a message. That'd be great.
Yeah, and if anybody has any tutorials on how to use Blender 2.8 for video editing or whatever, let me know, because I am just learning this in order to actually do actual videos on our channel.
Yeah, I'm not the creative license behind this at all.
That worries me.
If you want help, I can help you with HitFilm. Unfortunately, that's the one that I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm learning Premiere.
Yeah, I just really want to like learn how to do a lot of stuff. And Blender, so far, I have figured out how to do like different tracks, and I figured out how to fade the logo in and out. So I have about 9 seconds worth of an intro, so that's cool.
I have about 7 minutes worth of response video with a few animations and things that I've been working on. I've learned a lot of cool stuff. There's some really neat shit that you can do in HitFilm Pro. It's both compositor and editor in one program, and although it can be kind of taxing on your computer, so it's something that you would want a decent processor for, like being able to do it all in one single program means that you can layer those effects and see how they're going to play in real time, which I think is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, Premiere's kind of the same way. I'm still learning Premiere. What I do is I watch a lot of tutorials. Like, smarter people than me, please teach me. And that's pretty much what I do. And then I get stuck in a routine. So I learn a certain amount and then I stop learning and I just do what I do. So I'm trying to get out of that and learn all of the actual qualities of the program that I spent so much fucking money getting.
So we accidentally glossed over Mr. Parker. Nathaniel, you and I DM fairly regularly on Twitter at this point. We can talk over how to do like an atheist book club type thing.
Yeah, I can talk all night. We got to stop.
Mr. Parker, do you have a channel that you want to plug, or do you just want to, say goodbye to the chat? Do you have anything else that you want to say?
Can we follow you on Twitter?
Yes, you can actually.
Yay.
It's at the Mr. Parker. The dude who has Mr. Parker is some sort of Russian bot from 2012.
Boo.
Hoping for that to just go away. But yeah, I don't have a channel. I would like to try, but I just spend my time playing video games, and I'm sad but happy at the same time.
It's always Twitch.
Knock knows that feel.
I could do Twitch probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a channel. I just come on chats and sit and just say one sentence, and that's it, basically.
Sometimes you do talk. Mr. Parker, if you've been around for a while, you remember Mr. Parker as what was it, Godless Galaxy?
Yeah, it's Godless Galaxy, and then I kind of just changed it because it's like, eh.
But you did come on, and we had a one-on-one, and we talked about your particular brand of Satanism, and one of the two Satanists I've had on the channel up to this point. So, Satanist, I'm looking for all perspectives from you, and I will interview you and talk to you, and probably be nicer to you than I am to a Christian. So,
Mr. Parker, you also came on for at least one of our mental health streams, didn't you?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I was in the chat. I
think you came on recently for a stream, but I don't think it was a mental health one.
No.
Okay, I thought he had come on for one of our mental health streams.
No.
Mr. Parker's always in and out of the chat. Has been from pretty much the beginning, I guess. So always been around.
Yeah.
So, Nuck, this is just a reminder to you. I do not have any of my appointments tomorrow because we are currently under quarantine. So we can record tomorrow.
All right, yeah. So tomorrow, depending on the debate now, is going to depend. I'm going to probably.
He never has the debates like that fucking early. Dude.
Oh yeah, sometimes he does. It's really going to depend on praise and converse contender, whoever ends up moderating. So yeah, I do want to spend more time prepping. I have more times to add more arguments and more rebuttals. So I think I should use that time wisely. But we do got to record Genesis chapter 3. We do it real quick. I'll be very professional about it. We should be able to get it done tomorrow.
Well, and it's just going to be banter. We're not going to be dealing with scripts, so it's not going to be awkward this time.
It should be really quick. I've got everything set up. But we do need to get out of here. We've been streaming forever.
All right, well, we have one last channel announcement. Mama Atheist, our friend climate scientist, brand new baby channel with only a few hundred subscribers, and she, again, has an undergraduate education in astrophysics. She will be here Wednesday at 9 p.m. EST, so you guys are not going to want to miss it. She is a bloody fireball. She told a flat earther to suck her cock in under 6 minutes on, freaking Math Pig stream. She's going to be a lot of fun, and we need to get her some more exposure. She's an awesome person from everything that I can tell, and she wants to come on and talk about climate science. So our doubter P. Mars, if you want to get an education from somebody in the bloody field, show up on Wednesday. We're going to be having somebody talk about a pretty big topic who, when you ask, hey, do you have experience in the lab? Yes, I fucking do. Same as Nathaniel.
Yeah, just don't come on the stream calling the women cunts, dude. Seriously. But yeah, and tomorrow I will find out what time the debate is. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on my Facebook page that I'm hardly ever on. If I can remember to put it on there, I'll make sure to we'll put it in the comment section of the page as soon as I find out. And then of course James will tweet it out and everybody will know. So that'll be tomorrow, and I'm ready for it. I can't wait for it. And we'll probably have an after show whenever it is. So, we can't because we have a show tomorrow. Maybe we'll have 2 shows tomorrow. Who knows? A quick after show. Who the fuck knows?
Oh yeah, isn't Apostate Alliance tomorrow?
Huh?
Is Apostate Alliance tomorrow?
No.
Well, tomorrow's Tuesday, I thought.
Today's Tuesday.
It is. Yeah.
Tuesday? Yeah, it's not Apostate Alliance tomorrow. I'm fairly
Well,
certain.
I mean, for you guys, today is Tuesday. For Nathaniel and I, today is still Monday.
I've been in quarantine. My days blend together. I don't even fucking know what day it is, honestly.
Yeah, it's
hard to tell.
It's almost tomorrow.
It's Mon Tuesday.
Yeah, it's officially Tuesday now.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
It's almost April. But then again, with that in mind, it's also probably almost
You know
May.
what? It's not tomorrow until I go to bed. Don't at me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, it's officially not tomorrow for you yet anyway, Ali.
Yeah, dude, it's 1 o'clock over there. Go to bed.
Yeah, it's almost 1:30. But I won't go to bed. I'm gonna watch news and then go to bed.
I'm gonna change your Discord name again, Knock. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm Supreme Overlord in the Discord. That said, our rules are fairly lax in at least one of our channels. If you want to go in there and get into a fight with people, we've got 3 moderated debate channels and one that you can talk about anything but trans issues in and make into a dumpster fire if you want. Click the link in the description. Y'all are lucky our bot isn't working properly at the moment, so you don't actually have to go through the password chat. But, and this is a big but, if you break the rules outside of dumpster fires, we have an amazing mod team, and they will get your ass. So, we enjoy, like, we encourage discussion and debate. We created moderated and unmoderated debate sections specifically for that. If you want to come join and get into a fight with our awesome community, it's actually pretty active. Like, it's not the most active server in the world, but it's active enough that you can hold a pretty decent discussion and somebody will get back to you within a decent enough amount of time to get into a discussion. So everybody's home right now. This would be a great time to head on in, and especially if you want to be dissenting, like, we love our dumpster fires, so come on in.
I love dumpster fires. All right, so we're getting out of here, guys. Thanks for joining us. And tomorrow will be the debate. Sorry it didn't happen tonight. Technical issues. Blame James. That's a popular thing to do. So you guys have a good night. And I'm just totally joking. Don't blame James. Shit sucks right now. It's really hard for everybody. Like, even Mr. Atheist was lagging a little bit the other day. So it's just happening right now. Everybody's on the internet. So peace out, guys. Have a good night. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you.